Deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. That's RITHMM. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
Hey, what's up, you degenerate gamblers? This is Bill Burr, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, baby.
Have something new coming, I think. Okay, that's been done in any case, education. More education and more informed people. That's the way it is with everything. The young kids, they ask me advice, and I always tell them, get as much knowledge as you can.
Stadium heads, man.
The granddaddy of them all, the famed Rose Bowl, jammed with the color of over 100,000 fans for its 67th renewal.
And the weather here today at Notre Dame Stadium, in a word, it is cold, but it is football weather. The temperature 37 degrees, humidity 79%. Forecast cloudy for light rain later on this afternoon.
The average person doesn't know what a good stadium is. They might think they know what a good stadium is, but they think just, oh, our seats are nice and it's so comfortable. We have a 10,000-inch screen we can watch the replay on while we're watching the game, and we got a waiter coming over to take our orders, right? And there's 20 million bathrooms close to us. That's not what makes a good stadium. A good stadium is the look of it, the feel of it, the history of it, the soul of it. That's what makes a good stadium. That's what I mean when I said we're stadium heads. We are stadium heads.
They get to run around. Now those people, they shouldn't even be there. That doesn't even count. If you can't get out in the elements, you shouldn't even go to the game. That's the worst thing. Those darn boxes up there, dome stadiums and stuff. We don't need that, right?
Welcome to sunny El Paso, the 52nd Sun Bowl, and now
this ancient facility is one of the great settings in all of college football. Neyland is now in its 87th year.
That's what we are, though. We are stadium heads.
Welcome to the Stadium Heads podcast. Mountain West and Pac 2. Look, I mean, it's still the Pac 2. They have a deal with the Mountain West. I don't know what's eventually going to happen there, but we're going to break down all of their stadiums because a lot of people consider them kind of Mountain West teams since they have that deal. YouTube.com/StadiumHeadsSGPN. Jump on over there, hit that like and subscribe button. Look, if you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dad, a.k.a. Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. I would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Yes, folks, I love this show, and I love college football stadiums, and I love college football. So I'm excited to talk about this one. This is a podcast that I highly urge you to watch. My brother reminds me every week, oh my God, the visual show is so much better than the audio show. So make sure you hop on over to YouTube, type in @Stadium Heads SGPN, hit that like and subscribe button. I am joined by the most interesting man in college football. Give it up for Michael Barker. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. The Mountain West is one of my favorites. We're from California, ties back to the WAC days. There's two conferences I might consider giving up traveling for all across the country, and that would be the Big Sky and the Mountain West, and I just love them. So there's been some changes. We're going to throw in the Pac 2 because they're in the same region and we have the scheduling merger, but this is a fun episode. Last week we did the Big 12 and they had some mountain stadiums, but this is like the one that's true to form. So excited to talk about the Mountain West.
Yeah. And I love a lot of their stadiums too. So, I mean, something, we talked about it. I feel like on every episode, mountains and football stadiums, they go hand in hand. My only complaint would be they used to, and I'll be at Mountain West Media Days in Vegas in a couple weeks.
Nice.
And I'll get a chance, hopefully, to sit down with the commissioner, because she, for some reason, I feel like really in her tenure and maybe a little bit of, I believe the previous commissioner's name, drawing a blank on it right now, but my first thought was Bob Holsby, but I don't think it is. They used to play, if you go like 10 years back, 12 years back, they used to play a ton of Thursday and Friday games. It seems like that's dwindled down. Am I crazy?
I think they still have a fair amount of Friday games. If this year is a lot different because you can see the power conferences kind of sneaking into the Friday time slots that's usually been reserved for the G5s. There's some Fridays right now, there's 6 games already scheduled, which is crazy because it used to be 1 or 2. But I know Boise has a couple Friday games, San Diego State. So maybe not as prominent, because I can think of like Thursday night, Fresno State, USC, things like that. But, I met the commissioner, Gloria Nevarez, at San Jose State week 0 opener. She's really cool. And but we love them. And when they're on Friday night, we don't have Pac-12 after dark. So we'll take Mountain West after dark.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's very bright for the future of the Mountain West is the Pacific time zone spot. But I will say, like, back to the 6 games on Friday thing, I think a lot of that is, they used to play a lot more Thursday games, but because the NFL used to only go to Thursday, they used to only go to Thursday nights, like, late or mid season. So college football, Thursday nights used to always be college football. As a kid, when I remember the SEC played on Thursday nights, and that's gone away. Really, you look at a lot of the schedule this year, it's like 1 Thursday night game because they don't want to compete with the NFL, which is just silly to me because it's like you have like 100 games. Just you can still get decent ratings. 1 million people could still watch a game.
And I agree. If you're a college football fan, you're looking for college football. And just because the San Diego Chargers are playing the, Jacksonville Jaguars, that's not going to preclude us from watching ACC Thursday night or anything. So traditionally, the week 1 NFL opener is the Thursday when the defending champ is opening at home. They never even schedule a D1 game, FCS or FBS. So week 2 Thursday night, if you look at D2, D3, there are tons of games. So leader in the clubhouse right now is Grand Valley State, which is a D2 power.
Brian Kelly used to coach there.
I've been to their stadium, and it's like, this is a FCS G5 stadium facility. So, we do want the biggest games possible on every Thursday night, but if it's possible for me to sneak in a Grand Valley State visit, I'll love it. There's also October 19th. We got a bunch of games, but Wisconsin Whitewater, who's a D3 powerhouse, they have a great game on a Friday night. So we just want football. Don't deprive us of football. So yes, we want the D1 games, but college football fans, regardless of the NFL game it's going up against, we want that game. So don't hold back on it.
Amen. And folks, this is the appropriate clip for Michael's knowledge.
Well, I don't get the income, but
Lou Holtz just sitting there saying, "Wow, he's already talking. We're a minute into the podcast. He's talking Grand Valley State."
He might not even be able to find Wisconsin Whitewater on the map, which is unfortunate because there's.
I thought you were talking about a whitewater rafting trip we're going to go on or something, right? Wisconsin
Lou, let's go. I'll talk some sense into him.
No, Wisconsin Whitewater's a really good historic program. I do know that, and I know Grand Valley State as well is a very good program historically. So folks, that's what I'm saying. Look, I encourage people to, and we've got some positive feedback, regarding the show, but we talk mainly like FBS right now. It's going to go to the FCS, but D2, D3, NAIA, we love football. Just get out there at JUCO ranks. I don't even care. You know what I mean? Like, we love football. We love football being played at a classic stadium. And I
went to the NAIA National Championship in Durham, North Carolina on a Monday at noon. Okay. Is that sicko enough for people? Okay. So we're going to be there. And it was a great game. And Kaiser won the NAIA National Championship. So that's when we say we'll take football on any day. If you can find a way to Monday night or Monday afternoon NAIA, we'll be there for the big games as well.
Love it. Absolutely. So let's jump into this Mountain West, folks, because, and like I said, you're going to want to follow Michael's Twitter page at CFB Campus Tour, because he's going to those games and he'll educate you on some stuff. I love college football my whole life, but Michael, because he's, boots on the ground, he's educated me a lot on certain stadiums that have certain policies, the light or the game with the car lights, you know what I mean? Like there's stuff that I was way over my head that because he's boots on the ground and able to check it out, so get on over there, give him a follow at CFB Campus Tour. You'll learn a thing or two. But let's jump into this Mountain West stuff. But before I do that, I want to tell you folks out there that you are listening to the Stadium Heads podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And, we're brought to you by Circa. Circa, yes, the fine casino there in Vegas. And I believe they've opened up a few other ones outside of Nevada. They announced they're giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes for Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Sign up in Vegas and play from anywhere with footballcontestproxy.com, promo code SGP to get $50 off. That's footballcontestproxy.com, promo code SGP. All right, let's jump into this madness. And I was getting creative today. I think we're going to go boom like this. This is Michael's travels to the last time he's been to the Pac-2 stadiums or the Mountain West stadiums. If you're listening to this on the audio side, Air Force, Falcon Stadium, the last time he was there was 2017. That's quite a ways back, man. That's one of the older ones, I feel like, out of your travels. Am I correct?
That's my first year of traveling, and there are only 3 schools that I haven't got back to. Air Force is one. Stanford is another. They have a week 1 Friday night opener against TCU that I'm planning on going to. And the other one is Nevada, and they have a week 0 opener against SMU. So 2 of them are going to be knocked out by week 1. Air Force did not get a Friday night game. They were going to talk about it, but they renovated their stadium. It's really one that I want to work in, but the schedule giveth and the schedule taketh away. And if you're trying to do 2 games on a Saturday, you have only a few schools within proximity of Colorado Springs. You got Boulder. I went last year. Maybe you can get to Fort Collins, and maybe you can get to Greeley for Northern Carolina. But I was really hoping they would get a Friday night because they traditionally do. It didn't work out. The other option would be if they win the Mountain West and host the Mountain West Championship. Maybe we could squeeze it in on a Friday night because that's a separate day. So, that's the biggest gap in my travels would be Air Force and Stanford and Nevada.
Fantastic stuff. I mean, it's someone's got to have those. You know what I mean? Like those teams, because just you start traveling that many, one becomes the one that you've traveled to, the furthest away. So last time you were in Boise was 2018 as they took on the Colorado State Rams. Last time you were in Fort Collins, or at least at the stadium there, was 2018 as the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors came into Fort Collins. The last time you were in Fresno was last season as they took on the Nevada Wolfpack. And the last time you were on the island at the Ching Complex Center was 2022 for that week 0 matchup against Vanderbilt, which that game was a bloodbath. Yeah, I mean, I actually bet on Vanderbilt, so I was feeling. I knew that there was like a mutiny when Todd Graham when Todd Graham left, so I was like, I don't think they're ready for this. And Timmy Chang's our guy, June Jones is our guy. I just thought, he's walking into a terrible situation, but he's got them. Watch out for them this year. I think they're going to be all right.
Absolutely.
Last time you were in Reno was it says 2023. Did I get that wrong?
Yeah, it's supposed to be 2017. Yeah. That one. So I
sorry.
mentioned that was those 2 were the first year.
As the Air Force Falcons took on Nevada. That game was a wild game, right?
It was a wild game. It was really cold, and Air Force held the ball. I want to say like typical Air Force, like 40 minutes, and it was still something like 38-35, 41-38.
I remember watching it.
Yeah, it was a weeknight game too. Yeah, so, but yeah, it was a great game. That was my first year traveling. I wore like a thin hoodie, and one of the ushers looked at me and he says, "You're not from here, are you?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You're going to freeze your ass." And he was right. So
It's part of the experience, man. It's like Madden said on the intro, right? You got to get out there in the elements. Maybe
it doesn't count if you're not out there in the elements. No, it doesn't.
Maybe get yourself a couple coffees, ask if they got clam chowder anywhere, something like that. But last time you were in Albuquerque was 2023 for Utah State coming in, take on Danny Gonzalez's team. Now it's Bronco Mendenhall. We'll talk about that in a bit. Last time you were at Snapdragon Stadium was the first ever game at Snapdragon Stadium when Jaden DeLaura and the Arizona Wildcats came in and took down Brady Hoke's Aztecs. So he went to the first ever game there. How was that to go to the first game at a stadium? You know what I mean? Like the first.
Well, I grew up in San Diego, and so I've made a point to try to be at stadium openers. The year before, I was at UAB. For the opening of their state protective stadium 2021. It was surreal to be in San Diego because it's in the same spot as Jack Murphy Qualcomm. Jack Murphy was 70,000. This is a 35,000 seat, but the Chargers left San Diego because of the problems with Qualcomm. The Aztecs couldn't find a stadium in San Diego that would work. They sacrificed 2 years, played at a soccer stadium in Carson, California, and they were rewarded with a very nice, up-to-date stadium. So to be there, it was very cool. It was a cool moment. Hottest game in San Diego history. Crazy to do it at 12:30, but it was accomplishment, and now they got the Holiday Bowl back, so everything's starting to fall back into place for the Aztecs.
There we go. Last time you were in San Jose checking out the Spartans was when Jonathan Smith at Oregon State, where I think we're like top 15, came in and put a shellacking on them. And the last time you were in Vegas was last season as the Wyoming Cowboys came to town. You were also in Logan, Utah last season as Fresno State came through. And you were in Laramie. I was in Laramie. You were in Laramie, just different weeks. As the Wyoming Cowboys hosted the Colorado State Rams rivalry game.
Border war.
Yeah, border war. There you go. And last time you were in Corvallis with the Beavers was last year against the Utah Utes. And the last time you were in Pullman at Martin Stadium there was in 2018 as the Oregon Ducks came to town to take on. That was with my guy Mike Leach, may he rest in peace. Was the head coach there.
A little bit of inside baseball here. You can see the dates, and you got a lot of 2023s, and you got a few 2017, 2018. Traveling, if you're trying to hit 2 games in one day, it becomes difficult to do that on the West Coast. So you go to a Friday night game in Boise, it's hard to get to anywhere east of Texas by noon for a day game. So that's why these Thursday night games you were mentioning in the beginning are so vital, because you can hit a Thursday night game in Boise and then have all day to make it to Florida for a Friday night game, and then you can find your double. And so last year really tried to make a point to hit some of these. The Utah State game, I went to a Thursday night game in St. Francis in Pennsylvania. I flew Friday to Salt Lake City, saw Utah State, and then I drove right to the airport, caught a 12:25 a.m. flight on a Saturday, flew to Providence, Rhode Island, and caught a Brown game at noon and a Bryant game at 4 because I need the East Coast. So it's hard to do doubles, and one day, hopefully, I'm not just trying to concentrate on 2 games every Saturday, dedicate a full thing. But while we're trying to put up volume, that's why you're going to see some older pictures from ones that I'm just having trouble finding in slots for. But we're working on that this year really hard to get back to some of these schools.
Yeah. I mean, did you hear that, travel folks? I'm telling you, he's the most interesting man in college football. I got to get an audio drop. I got to go. You know what? I got to deep dive through the old Dos Equis commercials and find the audio of that, so I can just play it on the soundboard. I got homework for next week, folks. But all right, let's jump into this. The Air Force Falcons, Falcon Stadium, Colorado Springs, Colorado. 62 years old, seats 40,000. They just recently renovated this, right? Because I think it was a mix of you telling me and then our guy Rick Baum, who covers Air Force football. And I know we're scheduled to do our preview this next week as we're previewing all 134 teams on the College Football Experience podcast with the solo podcast reaching every team in the land. But yeah, I think because he was telling me, because he was like, I can get you great tickets, but he's like, you should wait for this thing to be done. So what's the status with that? And how about your experiences here?
Yeah, so I sent you a couple of pictures that I took in April. I went to, that's a campus visit, but they're doing an east side renovation. So that's the west side of the stadium. That's going to look exactly the same. They are dropping capacity down about 8,000 seats. And they're doing what a lot of schools do, which is building a more premium area, higher price tickets. You're going to make up the difference for the higher attendance at lower ticket prices. But, they have room to work with. The highest crowd they ever had here was 56,000. They're getting down to about 39, 40 now, which is on par with other Mountain West stadiums. And it's going to give it like a dual home side. I always talk about the press box is the signature piece of the stadium. So they're really going to have two. As far as my experiences there, I visited a couple times. These photos you're seeing are more recent visits. The only game I saw was and that's the press box that I took a photo under renovation. That will be done by week 1 of the season. 2017, I did a doubleheader with San Diego State versus Air Force. And then the night game, I went to Colorado and saw them play. But it's a cool place. We're fortunate to have military schools mixed in D1. And when you go to Army and when you go to Navy and this place, you got to go through security and you got to get your ID checked. And it's really a serious place to do. So, and it's isolated, 6,600 foot elevation, second in the country. This is a business trip and it's serious. And if you don't bring your A game with the way Air Force plays, you're going to get run out of the stadium.
Yeah. So I've recently started doing, like I just plugged, our team previews. And, I know we haven't had a chance to really talk about this off air as much, but this is going to be, in my opinion, the most interesting year of college football in my life. And my logic is this, and I know some people say, well, the regular season's been devalued, which, maybe for some games that could be accurate. Maybe the Iron Bowl is not as or the game, Ohio State, Michigan might not be as meaningful as I still think it will be meaningful, but I can understand that argument. But imagine being an Air Force fan right now. You've had back-to-back 10-win seasons. You have, to me, one of the best coaches, former NFL offensive coach, played at Air Force, and the best group of fives just went to the Power Five, right? So Houston, UCF, Cincinnati, BYU, all those teams gone, right? And even before that was Utah and TCU, right? Well, there's an auto bid for the group of five. And now I think the strongest conference is the Mountain West. So the team that comes from the Mountain West, more than likely, I think, and providing, another team just doesn't go 12-0, but I think the strength of schedule, even with Liberty, if they go 12-0 and the way that they were embarrassed last year, I think the Mountain West has a leg up on all the other conferences in the group of five. And to me, can you imagine? This is what it would before there was a barrier. And I think, I can say this as an ECU fan. We're a group of five. Now we can build on this. We can actually make the playoffs and potentially host a playoff game. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine a playoff? Now, I know they're going to try to make it so you can't host it because you're a group of five and money. But if Air Force goes 11-1, which isn't that far, like if you look at what Calhoun's done the past couple of years, you'd say, and you look at the schedule, it's manageable. If they were to go 11-1, it'd almost be hard not to give them the home game. You know what I mean? So this day and age of college football, I think it's going to change. I think teams, and I think it's going to ignite fans. Because let's face it, before, if you're an Air Force fan, or maybe Air Force isn't the perfect example because they're a service academy, but whatever, if you're New Mexico fan, if you're whatever, before you're like, yeah, we have football, but it's kind of like, what do we have? We make a bowl game. That's our reward. We have one game on the schedule. It's Power Five. Maybe we can beat them. No, now you actually have something that you can build into. A real shot. So, you win, you advance. And I think, I really think, much like in March Madness, this could ignite things, man. I remember taking a flight with the guy from St. Peter's after they had their magical run. And he was up in arms. He was saying that, this is the best moment of my life, but he was also saying that him and his buddies are planning to throw in some money to St. Peter's next year. See, that's what I mean, though. I don't know. Maybe Air Force isn't the greatest example because they're a service academy, but I do think they have a legit shot this year of making the playoff, which a service academy in the playoff, I think would be probably the most exciting thing college football has seen in some time.
Yeah, well, Boise State would be one off the top of their head where they've had success in one big game. So, but I agree with you. You know, last year Liberty made it and they were undefeated, and Conference USA is just not a strong conference. And Tulane had one loss to the very last week. And I think if they would have ended with one loss, they probably would have got in over Liberty. And when you look at the strongest conferences in the G5, it's Mountain West. The Sun Belt really cannibalizes itself. It's very hard to go undefeated there. So they're probably going to catch a loss. And then the top of the AAC, even though they lost the teams that you mentioned, there's still Tulane, there's still Memphis, there's a couple up there. But I think that you're right as far as somebody knowing they have a guaranteed path to the playoff. And then also, you know, the way that the top 4 teams are getting a bye, you're not going to get Liberty versus Georgia in the first round. You're going to catch a team with 1 or 2 losses in the first round. So maybe you go, you know, let's say Boise State wins the Mountain West and they get the playoff. They go travel to Penn State, and Penn State lost to Michigan and Ohio State and got 2 losses. We're not saying they're going to win, but Boise State has won. We know historically at Florida State, a lot of big games. So
at Georgia, they won at Georgia once. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's encouraging, you know, since what you really have to do to not only, you know, go undefeated is have a challenging out of conference schedule. Cincinnati, when they went to the playoff, they went undefeated, but their big resume win was winning at Notre Dame. And so some of these G5s, maybe it will change their scheduling over the next couple of years. If they're not getting in the playoff because they're out of conference, they're going undefeated, but they're still not getting in, you got to go take a couple of big shots. Marshall played at Notre Dame and beat them. So there's some examples like that.
Well, but even crazier though, back then was that you had to get the outright bid. Now somebody from the group of 5 is going every year.
Well, what I'm saying is that going undefeated may not be enough if you're in a conference USA.
Yeah.
If you're in there. If you're in the Mountain West or the Sun Belt and you're App State and you go undefeated and win the Sun, you're probably going to get in. But a way to separate yourself is take that challenging out of conference game and either be very competitive or pull off an upset. And that would be, in some people's mind, a tiebreaker, and they would extrapolate how that you did in that game. Well, if they can go and be very competitive at Alabama, we think they can be competitive in the playoff as well.
I just think it makes the regular season, like, you know, we're bummed that the Egg Bowl's off Thanksgiving. I'm legit bummed about that. I'm actually angry about that. But they have Tulane Memphis, I believe, is a game scheduled for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
That might be a really gigantic game as far as who could be in the playoffs. But all these games, I'm going through this exercise now, previewing all these teams, and I'm sitting there like, the games are so much more meaningful now, you know, for certain schools, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know, the stadium, I wish they would go back to grass though. I look at this photo and I'm like, get real grass. You had real grass for a long time. I love you know, I've always been a fan of Air Force. They had Bo Morgan and Blaine Morgan back in the day running the triple. I love them. And then obviously Fisher, that was the Fisher to Berry years, legendary coach. They had Bill Parcells coach there. So they've had just a good history, and Troy Calhoun's carrying that on to this day. Yeah, I would love to see Air Force in the college football playoff. I mean, in general, like, I think people sleep on the triple option. So Army was really good. Geez, look at that right there.
So that's the renovation of the outside of the east they call it the modernization project. So it's going to look cool, you know, but they're still sticking to the formula of a stadium built 61 years ago. But they're making some premium spots, and you know, they always do a good job with the historical stuff. There's military, you know, tributes on the outside, and Falcon. It's cool. You know, it's a cool statue there.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And like I said, I was going to make a point of, like, when Army a couple years ago, Army probably should have beat Michigan in the Big House. They also
Oklahoma, right?
Oklahoma. This thing's a nightmare for those schools. So, like,
hey, do you remember that bowl game where they beat Baylor and just destroyed them with the triple op?
Yes. Yeah, it's so beautiful. And dude, Tennessee paid Army $1.5 million last year to not play.
There you go.
To not play.
Yeah.
So that would be so great if one of these service academies, and I think probably Air Force is probably the best one of late, but
probably.
Yeah, that stadium looks really cool. I really like this shot here with the Falcon statue, and also just the way it says Falcon Stadium there. It just looks cool. It looks cool to me.
And it may not make the renovation. I'm not sure. I think the statue will still be there, but that is the east side. Those bleachers right there, they don't exist anymore. So I hope they're working. I think they're working around that statue, but they'll decorate the back hopefully and do something similar.
And I think it was either you or my buddy Rick that showed me that their basketball stadium goes right into their hockey stadium.
Yeah.
Is that you? That was you sent me that, right? Yeah.
Well, I posted it on Twitter a couple months ago. I did Colorado College hockey against University of Denver in Colorado Springs on a Friday night. Then they played in Denver against each other on a Saturday. Then on Sunday or Saturday that afternoon, I went to a Mines baseball game, Colorado Mines and Golden. And then the next day I went to Air Force basketball and Yale versus Denver lacrosse. So it was all crazy, but I did get to go to the basketball game, and you go into this, I don't know if you want to call it arena. There was some name they had, but when you walk in to the right is the ice rink, and you look to the left is the basketball arena. It's pretty cool.
That's wild. That's wild. Yeah, I gotta get there and check that out too. So if you're going to Falcon Stadium, you might as well take a tour of that too. Yeah, I love this. I like this stadium. I think it's, I mean, to me, like I said, just wish you go back to grass though. If you're listening out there, and I had a chance to sit down with Troy Calhoun last summer at Mountain West Media Day, and he gave me a lemon, by the way. It's the military. They're decisive. He thought I asked him about his team. He's like, we can't keep up these days. Everyone else can use the portal. Right. So I'm like, I think I'm getting this nugget, and he's telling me, he's like, yeah, I just don't think, we're just not there. We lost so much production. Oh yeah, sure.
Sandbagging you.
He did sandbag me. They were like 8-0 to start the season. I'm like, what are you doing, Troy?
Yeah.
All right, let's jump on over to the Boise State Broncos. I have been to this stadium. I've tailgated. I've gone to this bar that looks like a house across the street from the stadium. I called it Bronco Stadium. See what I did there? It was.
Most people still do. They still do.
I had Dan Hawkins on the College Football Experience show. Go listen to that episode. He talks about building Boise. Him and Dirk Cutter and then Chris Peterson, who was his offensive coordinator for him, about their creative tactics, whether it was the blue turf or whether it was purposely trying to contact ESPN to get on Thursday nights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he mentions that in the interview. He was like, we were aggressive. We had the our athletic director hitting them up, being like, "Hey, we want the third." And look, I was at a diner in Culver City, California here, and like three people that it was like a guy and two girls, and they didn't seem like they were football people, right? But somehow he brought up Boise State, and the girl goes, "Is that the one with the blue turf that always does those weeknights?" I mean, Dan Hawkins, Dirk Cutter, geniuses for putting that together. But this is a great stadium, 54 years old, seats 36,400 people. Tell me about your travels to Boise, Idaho, my friend.
So I've been to Boise a few times. There's stadiums that even when you're not a traveler or before that, you just are fascinated by. And so the blue turf, been around since 1986. You talk to Boise fans and they are married to this thing. They love it. And so again, if you want to be unique and separate yourself, like the strategy you talked about, this brought them attention. That photo is from the summer last year. I just did a campus visit. I've been to one game there. It was in 2018. It was a weeknight game against Colorado State. Absolutely throttled them. What I really liked about the experience at Boise is the fans are extremely nice. They wanted to educate me on some of the traditions that were there. They got guys that dressed up as Elvises. You mentioned the tailgating scene is really cool. They have, the bowl game every year, the Idaho Potato Bowl since 1987. And it's not just a gimmick, because we know how big they've been. They're part of the progression of G5s kicking down the door to get in the playoff. We talked about UCF. We talked about Cincinnati. But they've been extremely dominant in this place. Since 1999, their record is 136-13, which is a 91.3 winning percentage. Between 1999 and 2011, they had a 47-game winning streak, and they were in the WAC conference for 10 years, and their home record was 40-0. So this place, people think maybe they've fallen off because they're not going undefeated every year. But this stadium, Bronco Stadium, this is where teams' dreams go to die. And it's really, we love the Mountain West because their conference always hosts the championship game. And, Fresno State will rise up, and San Jose State and other schools. But you still have to go through Boise. They're the 800-pound gorilla in the room. But this is a fun place. They have 3 Friday games potentially. November 1st, they have a Friday night game. Black Friday, they have a 9 a.m. Friday game against Oregon State, which logistically is going to be difficult to get to. And then, as we mentioned, the Mountain West hosts the game, and that's Friday, December 6th. So might be 3 chances to get there and knock out the first trip since 2018.
Yeah, and not to reiterate what I just said about the playoffs, but like they're the front runners. I almost think, it's funny. People were feeling sorry for them, which I get, because they've earned, to me, a seat at the big boy table, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, they've won at Oregon, they've won at Washington, they won in Maryland against Virginia Tech, they won at Georgia, at Florida State, and they were supposed to play Florida State on the blue turf, but COVID happened.
They won 3 Fiesta Bowls.
Yeah, obviously beating Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl, beating about Arizona. I think they got one time with Rich Rod. But it also might be like, if you told me right now, group of 5, like who would be the group of 5 bid this year? My first pick would be Boise State, just because they dominate. They're bringing in a 5-star Malachi Nelson, a quarterback from USC. And they're just really good. Ashton Jeanty's a star running back for them. And I would just say that they might be in a better spot to make the playoffs than like UCF. When you think about UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, in a way, they might have been smarter. Now, I know that financially maybe it made sense to go to the Big 12, but I'm just saying, if we pencil in Boise every year to the playoffs, they kind of win in a way. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So, yeah, I love everything about them, man. They're just they haven't had a losing season since like 1997, wow. And it's just remarkable. I like this too. Obviously, the Fiesta Bowl champion graphic there, 2007, 2010, 2014, as you alluded to, the 3 Fiesta Bowls. And I love honoring their old players.
Yep.
As you can see right there, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. It's just a cool experience. And so you're planning to go back this year?
I'm hoping. I mean, I don't like these gaps of 2018. So the November 1st game is also Florida Atlantic is playing a Friday night game. In both Florida Atlantic and Boise are difficult to 2 for 1. So you want to jump on that. The only Florida Atlantic game I saw was during COVID. So right now I'm leaning towards the Florida Atlantic and trying to figure out. So Black Friday and the Mountain West Championship, they're back-to-back weeks. They're back-to-back Fridays. So I think by the time we get to Black Friday, we're going to know probably if Boise is in position for hosting that Friday night Mountain West game, championship game. So if they are, then I'm not going to try to figure out how to get 9 a.m. to Boise on the Black Friday. I'm going to do the Mountain West Championship, which is going against the AAC and the CUSA Championship. And I've already been to all those schools very recently. So I'm hoping for that. One thing I do want to mention, we talked about it a couple episodes and just kind of like Twitter flex. A couple of weeks ago, we did the G5 stadium poll, and the final was App State, Boise State. During the poll, the AD for Boise State, Jeremiah Dickey, he quote tweeted the championship poll, and he said, "Hey, these are 2 great bucket list stadiums. What do you guys think about us playing?" And everyone, of course, said, yeah, that would be amazing. And then about a week later, they announced that they're going to have a home and home with App State. And, we'll get in the Sun Belt Conference and do App State, but App State, Boise State, Kid Brewer, Bronco Stadium. Those are the two probably best bucket list stadiums all G5. So that was a cool moment to have on Twitter.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it seems like it's going to be another great year for the Broncos. Get yourself out there. Like I said, I loved my experience, and I've been to App State too, and me and my brother have kind of just, for some reason, we love Boise, we love App, and
Absolutely.
it just works, man. Like we're hoping for more Sun Belt, Mountain West, matchups, because I think those two conferences for the FBS have the best blueprint on what college football should be in a way. Yeah,
I agree. And I mentioned in the beginning, I would work for the Big Sky or work for Mountain West, Sun Belt. I would do that too.
Yeah. The only one that I think, like, for Mountain West, I want them to get UTEP in New Mexico State. I think that
in the WAC, right?
They belong in the Mountain West. Can you imagine playing your championship games? I like how they do it on campus, but if you're going to go neutral, can you imagine the championship in the Sun Bowl in the mountains? You're the Mountain West. You play at the Sun Bowl. Come on.
No, you're getting me too excited right now.
I'm just saying, UTEP has a rivalry with New Mexico already built in, and they have a rivalry with New Mexico State. New Mexico State has a rivalry with New Mexico. I just think it's a perfect fit. If you're going to expand, jump there. I know they went Washington State and Oregon State. They can be in two, but
that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, Mountain West Championship is the Sun Bowl. I might retire after that game. That's the pinnacle right there. So
hey, I'll be pushing this agenda at Mountain West Media Day at Circa in Vegas in a couple weeks. All right.
Good call. Yeah, let's do it. Put the pressure campaign on them.
Definitely will do, man. This stadium's fantastic. Next, I was in Fort Collins in the past year, stayed there for a night. And I could see the decor in the hotel, I think I was at a Hilton, and it was all, decked out in CSU and the logo and everything. But this is a new stadium. I haven't been to this one. Canvas Stadium, Fort Collins, Colorado, 7 years old, seats 41,000, but it looks pretty damn beautiful. Tell me about your experiences to Fort Collins.
So the first trip I ever took unintentionally for college football travel was I stayed at a haunted hotel in Lake Estes, Colorado. It's called the Stanley, and that's where Stephen King got the inspiration for The Shining. On the way up there, I stopped at Boulder, went to Folsom Field, and then I was going an hour north to Fort Collins. I was going to check out Hughes Stadium in 2017. That was the home of Colorado State football, and I went to the campus first, and they were building Canvas Stadium. And so I'm on campus. It's a Sunday, and I could look in, and I'm seeing this brand new stadium being built. And it just kind of got to me. It was a fun feeling. And so that was part of the inspiration for me to travel for college football at all. I've been there a couple times on campus. Fort Collins is a cool place. The game that I went to was 2018 Week 0 Hawaii, and it was Cole McDonald goes in and beats Colorado State. And as you mentioned, at the time, it was a 2-year-old stadium. It's 36,000 seats with 5,000 standing room only, so that place could get packed out. The end zone, if you're looking at the picture right here, the end zone to your right with the open end, there's an actual brewery there. It's, I want to say it's the only stadium with a brewery in the end zone, and that's where you get the standing room only. So, and it leans into the Colorado vibe. It's the outdoor stadium. It's 5,000 foot elevation. It's all the things that we love about Mountain West football. And Canvas Stadium, even though Hughes was a classic stadium, it brought Colorado State football on campus for the first time in 50 years. So getting this thing built, state of the art, last 10 years, getting back on campus, huge accomplishment for the program.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be a bowl team this year. This is Norvell's third year. I think they host Colorado this year. This place is going to be insane.
Yeah,
it's going to be insane for that game. Look, they actually shared something on social media this past week with some shots from in the snow. I think they played in a game in the snow last year. It was just everything that football would be. And I like the fact it's Sonny Lubick Field. I went to Sonny Lubick Steakhouse when I was there last year. That I love honoring Coach Sonny Lubick. He was a legendary coach for them. That's cool. This is some people say, at least with myself, I don't know if you get this too, that we only like the old stadiums. And I say no. Like, this is one that I dig. This is a new one. There's good ways to do this thing. We talked about Baylor last week. I'm okay with new stadiums if done right, but if they to me, if they don't look like a a spaceship or something, or if they look like a spaceship or something, I got no interest in it. You know what I mean? Like, this is the way a football stadium should look, in my opinion.
And in the fact that it's on campus, that Trump, we talked a couple episodes about Syracuse, and we don't want a dome, but you know what? They stayed on campus and they did it. And so the students, they could walk right to the game. There's a lot to do in Fort Collins as far as, student life afterwards. And it's done very well. I mean, a lot of people have said this is like the G5 blueprint for a stadium. I think that it's expandable. You can see the way that the second deck only goes to about the corner of the end zone. You could add more seats there. So as I mentioned, it's 36,000 seats with 5,000 standing room. So you can fit people. App State is always 30,000 capacity, but they get 30,000 or 39,000 with the standing room only. So it checks a lot of boxes, bringing it back on campus, state-of-the-art stadium, expandable, all those things. So we were happy for the program, and they really have everything in place except a recent winning history. And once they get that, this is going to be a lot of a fun place to go and watch football on a weekly basis.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I just think, and they were a good program for a long time too.
Yes.
When Sonny Lubick was there, like, they were top 25, beating a lot of good P5s. They're on their way there. Little Steve Adazio hire hurt them, but man. And by the way, where are these photos? You went to a spring game? What'd you do here?
This was, so when you go to Colorado, you got Fort Collins, Boulder, Northern Colorado, Mines. They're all very close to each other. So this was something I stopped in between. I think this was like a football camp going on, and no admission costs, and stadium traveler's dream. You love packed out games, but you love an empty stadium to be able to go explore. So I haven't been there since 2018. I feel like my photos have proved a lot. So some of these angles are what you're seeing is I want to get to a game this year, and those are the photos I want to duplicate with a full crowd.
Yeah. I mean, it looks pretty awesome, and love this. This is great. Just two big ass Ram statues going head to head into one another.
And how many teams are named the Rams? Okay, I'm thinking it's the only one in Division I, or maybe Rhode Island. Is
Rhode Island, right? Yeah.
So to do something cool, I mean, look at that. That's battle ready, right in front of the gate of the stadium. It's a big win, and on game day, photo spot, families lining up. They want this in the background.
Hell yeah, man! It's a great stadium. Next, before we go to the next school, I want to tell you, which is Fresno State, by the way, I want to tell you though, that the Stadium Heads podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8 is now live for the NBA Finals. Create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. And the best part is you can win up to 325 times the amount of money you originally enter. You can now use specials and boost on all flex entries as well. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. Sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. And they do have college football action, folks. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. All right, back on the Stadium Heads podcast, and we jump over to Bulldog Stadium. You see what I did there? Fresno State, Fresno, California, 44 years old, seats 40,800, and big Jeff Tedford fan. Got to hang out with him and talk Mike Leach stories with him last year. But I was a fan even before I'd met him. And once again, not to beat a dead horse, but this is why I feel like this college football season is going to be super, super exciting. Is I think Fresno State's got a real chance to play in the playoffs. Like, I know I mentioned this for Air Force. If I had to set odds off the top of my head, Boise and Fresno would be at the top of my list. And then it would probably be UTSA or Memphis, and then maybe Tulane or Air Force. But if you're a Fresno State fan, you've never had opportunity like this. And man, I can tell you this, another thing, since I was a kid watching Fresno State games back when they had Trent Dilfer and stuff, I always love the end zones, man. Anytime you give me some checkered end zones, whether it's them or Tennessee, it's a win to me. So I've always dug this place. I've actually never been to a game, but I've been to the right outside the stadium as I was doing stand up in Fresno. But tell me about your travels here, man.
So this, I've been to 2 games there. And this was the most recent game that was a very difficult 2-for-1. When we talk about how it's difficult on the West Coast, it's just because they're spread out. I did a Cal Berkeley game at noon, and I did a Fresno State game at, I think it was 7:45, and it's about a 3-hour drive in between. Walked in the stadium about 20 minutes before the game. That's as much as you could push it, but I wanted to push it, and it worked out. You mentioned them being a big player for the playoff. They were 5-0 going to this game, playing Nevada. They beat them, and I've said this on other podcasts. I've said this on other platforms. The Fresno State fan base is the best in California.
Oh, 100%, man. 100%.
They take so much pride in the Valley. You know, they Pat Hill it used to be like, have team will travel. They would take on anybody. They go to USC and give them problems. And so this is it's almost like a Southern or a Midwest fan base, the vibe that you get there. And when they pack this place out, it's intimidating. I was very happy to get back there. Like I said, I feel like my photos improved. And what another inside baseball thing, some stadiums you go to at night, the lights, when you try to take a photo and zoom out, they're blurry and they send out all these light beams. These lights they're very distinct. And I looked up the name. They're cantilevered lights, and they hang over in such a cool way. And so the checkered end zones, the black sky, the cool lights, it's just, and a great team and a great fan base. If you say, hey, you can go watch games at one place in California, yes, you're going to want to go to the Rose Bowl. Yes, you're going to want to go to USC, but for the environment, this is where you would want to go.
Yeah. I mean, they're awesome, dude. I've been saying this for a while. Their fan base is, and I've actually never been to a game, but I just know I've talked to enough of them where I know the passion is there. And I've just watched them for a long time too. So it's like, man, can you imagine them hosting a playoff game here? This place would be insane. And those lights, what's that?
I was going to say, it gives me like Oakland Raider vibes with their fan base. And, we've obviously the Oakland Raiders are not in the Bay Area anymore, but it's that same kind of just, I don't want to say blind loyalty, but they're all about Fresno State football.
Yeah. And that's why, unfortunately, I think the Raiders have been ruined as a franchise, because you see a game in Vegas of the Raiders. It's like the opposing team is 60%, Packer or Ravens fans, or whatever game you go to, the away team. So like, man, those Oakland Raider fans, yeah, you're right. It does give me vibes like that. And these are the lights, a close up of the lights. It's really unique, right?
Very unique. I mean, these were put in 1985. So the stadium was built in 1980. I'm not sure what the lights looked like before that, but they're really cool. And one thing that we should mention, or I should mention, is there are renderings for a potential upgrade to the stadium. They would need to raise some more funds. Obviously, an appearance in the playoff would be a windfall and bring some more money. It's built in 1980, so it's right in between the old, the 90, 100-year-olds we're talking about, and then we just did Colorado State, so the newer ones. So do they want to upgrade it? Yes. Do they need to do anything? In my opinion, no. It's a one-level bowl that's walkable. You can walk around the whole thing. I really like it, but again, if you're going to stick true to the stadium and not change it too much, and you want to dump in money in to improve it, we're all in favor of that. But I know that there is more success brings more demand for tickets, and there's a blueprint to expand it. It's just not in place to come to fruition. But as it is, I mean, stadium heads like us, we don't think they should change a thing.
Yeah, not at all. Don't fuck this up. And I like those trees back there too. You see those trees deep? This shot's great, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I sent you a day photo in the empty. I'm not sure if it's there, but if you do go there, visit during the day. I went there to a spring game a couple years ago. That's one of them. You can see little trees in the background, but yeah, there's a scenic view. It's not, Maverick Stadium or something like that, but yeah, you can see some greenery outside the stadium.
Yeah, I can dig it, man. And yeah, I would love to see them hosting a playoff game, or just, Just don't mess it up, folks. All right, don't mess this up. Don't listen to just listen to the people that love football. Next up, we go to this one's tough for me. I know it's tough for you, but Hawaii's Ching Complex. Oh man, I didn't move. It says Boulder, Colorado. That's my mess up. That's in Honolulu, Hawaii. 9 years old. Seats 16,909. I'll tell you this, man. It doesn't matter where a stadium is. It's going to look beautiful in Hawaii, even though we know the history and of the Aloha Stadium. And we're going to talk about that in a second, but I still think this looks beautiful, man.
Yeah. I'm so invested in Hawaii football. Last year on your team previews, for the college experience, I did at the end a 5-minute stadium profile of each stadium, but I said I want to do the Hawaii episode. So I sat in, we did the whole Hawaii episode. But obviously the original sin is not maintaining Aloha Stadium. It got condemned in 2020. There's no plan for a long time. Best case scenario, new Aloha Stadium, 2028, built in the same spot. So this stadium is on campus. It's Ching Complex. It was built in 2015, 4,100 seat capacity track stadium. No intention to make it into a football stadium, but out of necessity, they've got it to 9,000 seats. Now it's at 17,000 seats. They brought the scoreboard in from Aloha Stadium. They put it on the back of the baseball stadium. The downsides of this place is there's no tailgating. There's no parking. And it's difficult to access. Aloha had 50,000. This is only 17,000. But the upside is the location is amazing. It's right smack dab in the middle of campus. Within 20 feet is the baseball stadium, the beach volleyball stadium, the basketball arena, the tennis courts. All of these are right there. And when you're talking about being a campus tour guy on campus, to just have everything be walkable is such a cool thing. Aloha Stadium is at least 15 to 20 miles away from campus, but it has the tailgating culture that Hawaii loves. But long story short, this is the most isolated place in the world. It's a G5 stadium, and they're trying to sustain their program for 9 years without a full stadium. It's a challenge, and that's why we support what they're trying to do. I'm as invested as possible, but again, you look at that, you got the mountains in the background. It's very cool, and I'm hoping for much success for the Rainbow Warriors here in 2024.
They've always been like a top 5 coolest. Like when I was a kid, my dad brought home a DirecTV in like 96 or something, 95, something like that.
Wow.
And we would get the Hawaii games at midnight. And to me, they were just the coolest, most like their uniforms back then. They hadn't even done it. They had the rainbow on them.
Yeah.
Right. But they were just the coolest program ever. And I still think if you told me besides my actual fandom of like where I was at, what's a school that you would love to see, win and dominate, it's by far one of my first selections would be Hawaii. Absolutely. Because they're everything that's great about college football. The fact they even have a team in the FBS is great. And I think, Hawaii produces a ton of talent. So if they can ever put a fence around it, we did have June Jones on the show recently, and he said they have a big meeting at the end of June regarding the future. He thinks it's going to happen. He goes the new Aloha Stadium, but he said they have a big meeting at the end of June. So FYI.
Yeah, they selected 2 developers, and they're supposed, there's been a lot of renderings. It's taken a long time, but they finally got it back on track, and they are in June or August. So if June Jones knows the date, they're going to choose a design. Cannabis Capper is asking if these are renderings. So this is from week 0, 2022 against Vanderbilt. And so this was the first game after they expanded the stadium to 9,000 seats. The first one is the first photo is in the empty was from the spring game this year. You can see the rear end zone. They've added more seats there, and in the end zone that I'm standing in, they've added it. So that's how they got to 17,000. But the photos with the crowd, that's from a real game. And, the color of the turf pops, the sky pops, the mountain pops. And
just beautiful.
Yeah, and this is the Vanderbilt section, and it's always a dream to be a fan base and get a road game in Hawaii. Everybody wants to play in the Hawaii Bowl there. So, but no, these are what the real stadium looks like. There's a lot of people in Hawaii on the islands that think that they should just build this thing up. There's $350 to $400 million earmarked for new Aloha Stadium. We talked about Ryan Field, how it's $800 million. And imagine if they took half of that and updated the old Ryan Field, what it would look like. Well, instead of building a 35,000 seat stadium for $350 million, it's going to be in place best case scenario in 2028. There's a lot of people who think dump that money or half of that money in this location, put in some permanent seating, add some places possibly to tailgate and build it up. So I always say you could go ask 100 people on Oahu what the solution to the stadium is, and you get 100 different answers. But again, there's a plan in place, but they're making the best of it. And they've, I think, learned their lesson. The deferred maintenance on Hawaii got that stadium condemned. They lost a home and home with Oregon. They lost the Hula Bowl. The Pro Bowl's not there anymore. So again, we're rooting for them to recover.
Yeah, and here's some Aloha Stadium photos. You were there, for their final,
closing ceremony.
Yeah, for the public, right? The last time anyone in public could go there, and they destroyed it after, right?
So it's still standing. When it was, I want to say February of 2023, there was a closing ceremony. I spent 9 hours in Aloha Stadium, and I've never spent that much time anywhere. They had a lot of memorabilia from previous teams. You could walk through the locker room. And when I left, I blew a kiss and figured next time I was in Honolulu, it would be gone. And it's still there. There's a swap meet, the Aloha Stadium swap meets that are very popular. They're out there every weekend. It's around the perimeter of the stadium. So the wrecking ball is coming. It's going to be a sad day. I don't know if they're going to implode it all at once or they're going to piecemeal it, take it apart. But even just to have a peek in there, you mentioned how we have the reverence for Hawaii football. I got to see 3 games at Aloha Stadium, and it was a dream come true. It just seemed like this magical place on an island that you would never get to. And you find out how rabid Hawaii fans are for football, not just college football, but high school football and everything. So
you see so many great players come from there. It's no wonder,
No, I mean, you got Marcus Mariota and Mackenzie Milton and Dylan Gabriel, and Colt Brennan to this day is revered as a hero. He's not from Hawaii, but he's treated like a Hawaii legend. I went to RIP Colt Brennan. He had a celebration of life ceremony on Waikiki Beach, and I went there, and they did it on the beach, and then they took boats out and we paddled out into the ocean and spread his ashes out there. So just very powerful. Timmy Chang, NCAA leader all time back in the day. So always entertaining. But, if you're trying to convince somebody to go on vacation and you want to go to Hawaii, hey, we can go spend 68 hours of our trip on the beach and do everything. Go spend 4 hours at a Hawaii football game, squeeze it in there. It's well worth it.
Yeah. Look, since the Pro Bowl's gone, this is another one. Since we don't have the Sun Bowl, I'm okay with on campus because on campus is always great. But if they're considering a neutral site to play the Mountain West Championship, I say you do Hawaii. Don't give me this Vegas nonsense. Go to Hawaii. I think that'd be cool. And it's like a vacation, it's like a bowl game for you too. So, yeah, it's a shame, and hopefully, they can find their way out of this, and whether it's with the Ching Complex or whether building a new one, hopefully they just continue to invest in football.
And they're facing the most hurdles out of everybody. Their home games are on pay-per-view on the island, $70 a game. They're in a contract for Spectrum. During COVID, they couldn't go and see games. They started their stadium when it was on campus with only 9,000 seats. So revenue, we want that all to flow. So if they could keep the program going, and winning is a bonus, but just get to that new stadium, like you said, and turn it into a place that can host a lot of events, big time events, I think the momentum will come back. Because we saw in 2007, they go undefeated. They made the BCS. They played in the Sugar Bowl. It's possible.
Yeah. Who signed that deal? That's what I want to know, because that is terrible. It reminds me of when my father tells me about boxing and how every Friday night you get boxing, and it was such a huge deal in America, and then they're like, hey, let's do pay-per-view, and then the sport's dead essentially. You know what I mean? Like it's on its life. It's just terrible.
And it's crazy when you tell people on the mainland about this pay-per-view, because it's, we could watch it for free. And there's a thing, it's like Team Sports One app, where even when they're not on major TV on the mainland, you can watch it for free during the app. Spectrum Sports is who they have their contract with to cover the games. And honestly, their coverage is great. But you get all the other sports for free. It's only football where they charge. And so, there's been a dip in attendance, and during COVID, they couldn't go to the games, and they were still getting charged $70 for pay-per-view. And a couple of years ago, I did a Twitter contest, and I said, I will pay for one person to, their pay-per-view for that particular game. A woman who was a 40-year season ticket holder, she entered, and I chose her, and, she was able to watch the game for free. But you shouldn't have to do that, especially during COVID. But going forward, like, a G5 school charging $70 to their home fans on the mainland when you got a stadium, either you can't let people in or it's small. So I hope there's an ending to that contract, but it's definitely an impediment, let's just say, for fan bases watching your home team. If for some reason, let's say you're on a different island, you can't make it to Oahu, how are you going to watch the game if you don't pay for it? So.
It seems very corrupt to me. I'm not familiar with the story, so I don't want to talk out of my ass too much, but don't your tax dollars pay for the university?
Yeah, it's an antiquated thing, and I hope that expires. And again, they do a great job on other sports. Cover the football program in the same way. Just remove the pay-per-view cost, please.
Yeah, definitely. Man, I got to get out there. I got to get out there, man. Aloha looks so great too, man. Let's hop on over and talk about the Wolfpack of Nevada, Mackay Stadium there in Reno. 58 years old, seats 27,000. I mean, look, this is another school that at one point, now they're going through a little bit. I like the hire of Jeff Choate, the former Montana State Bobcats head coach, before he went down to Texas and took them to the CFP as the defensive coordinator. But when Chris Alt had this thing going, Chris Alt, legendary coach, invented the pistol offense. When he had this thing going, man, there might have been a year or two where they made the playoffs had they had this 12-team thing. And obviously Colin Kaepernick, Charles Mann, the former Washington Redskin defensive end. They've had some guys. Alex Van Dyke was a receiver in the 90s that just tore it up. I've been to Reno. I didn't get a chance to go to a game, but I like these shots. Tell me about, well, first this is from a few years ago, right?
This is before college football campus tour was a thing, so probably the fourth or fifth game that I went to, and there was no shot of the night. There was just me kind of exploring college football stadiums, and ad nauseum, we've talked about 2-for-1s. Reno is basically impossible to 2-for-1. So I haven't been there for a while. Last year I just drove 3 hours to Reno because I wanted to check out the stadium, and got a lot of great photos during the day. These are the ones that you're showing. And week 0 is Nevada hosting a P5. They're hosting SMU, and I'm thinking I think it's a 6 p.m. local start. The sun is going to be out. We're going to get the sunset, and you're hosting a big time opponent on national TV. So unless, we're not making schedule announcements yet, but unless another game gets moved there that has higher priority, which I just don't see happening, this is where I'm going to be August 24th for the season opener.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. That seems, and they're taking on the SMU Mustangs, and that's it. Look, I love this. Once again, Mountain West. I see mountains behind the stands here, winning me over.
4,600 foot elevation, and you can see downtown Reno in the background there. So a lot of times you get major cities, it's very difficult to navigate and park and do all that. This is far enough away from downtown Reno where you don't have those issues. So you're right. There's been a couple seasons where they've popped and they've been successful. Their basketball program is very good, so they know how to build a winner there. And I think that having a national broadcast week 0 against a P5 opponent with a brand new coach making their debut, we're not saying they're going to win, but that's going to be an exciting atmosphere to be at.
Yeah, and you're not far from Lake Tahoe too, right? I feel like that's
No.
like 30, 40 minutes away maybe. I could be talking out of my ass, but when I went to Reno, I was in Tahoe one of the nights, and it's just a Damani in the chat, the Bland football fan. I like it. They got to get rid of the track, in my opinion. But
so the track is, you can see that the bleachers are on the. If you go to the overhead view, you can see the bleachers are on the end zones are over the track. So they don't. I think they have a separate track stadium now, so they don't do it. But yeah, I mean, your choices are lower the field or do what Boise State did and just cover turf over the track. But it's not it's not an in-use track, so that would be more reason to cover it up or figure out a way.
Yeah, and look, if you're gonna, that's what I'm saying. If you can make a weekend out of this, go get a place in Tahoe and then just commute 40 minutes for the game or 30 minutes to the game, and then or stay in Reno. I like Reno because it's old school. Go do a deep dive on the history of Reno. It's a fun deep dive.
I mean, the game's going to be over at 9:30, and you're going to drive and go to the casinos. You could have a ton of fun. So that's why week 0 is cool, because there's only like 6 or 7 games, and you can legitimately make a whole weekend out of this week 0 trip.
Hell yeah, man. I dig it, and I root for them to be good again. I loved it when they were good. Chris Alt had this thing rolling. All right, look, before we get to our next goal, I want to tell you that the Stadium Heads podcast is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on NBA player props, then you need to download Rhythm. That's RITHMM. Rhythm is a predictions and projections app that makes data and analytics in sports betting easy for everybody. Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. So what are you doing, folks? From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by best-in-class data without you needing to endlessly scroll through some sports book. So what are you doing? Claim that free 7-day trial period today. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. Yes, the MLB, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. So take the guesswork out of there, all right? Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that redeeming code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, terms apply. Redeeming code CFBX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, next we go to the New Mexico Lobos, and I want to preface this by I'm very excited about the future. University Stadium, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 64 years old, 39,225 people is what seats at University Stadium there. I was watching a Texas Tech New Mexico game, and it actually went into, after that, it went into, I believe, like a Mountain West game. I think it was maybe it was Nevada. So I saw back-to-back games from the Rocky Long era, and this place was rocking. At basketball, they have one of the best home court environments in all the nation.
Yeah.
So they've had some rough seasons lately, but they hired Bronco Mendenhall, who had ties to Rocky Long and playing for him, or not playing for, coaching for him way back in the day. I think this place is going to be lit again in the future. Tell me about your travels to Albuquerque.
So this photo is from 2018. They played a Friday night game against Boise State. And then last year, Black Friday, the end of the year, they played Utah State. And so I went there. I will tell you, we talked about in the beginning of the show about Mountain West stadiums and how they hit us and the environment. Albuquerque, there's a view of the mountains, and there's something about it. This is a stadium that you walk in, and I don't know, it just kind of grabs me a little bit. On the backside of the road bleachers, they got the track stadium, and you can see the blueprint to keep them separate, not put it around there. But, they've hosted the New Mexico Bowl since 2006. there used to be, I did a campus visit to Cal Poly, and they have a banner up for 1980 national championship. And I didn't know what it was. And they played what was called the Zia Bowl, which was the D2 championship game for 2 years. They played it 1979, 1980. Cal Poly won a D2 national championship in the stadium. And when you look at that video on YouTube to see what the stadium is transformed into, it's mind-boggling, and it's improved a lot. So I really enjoy the experiences coming there. They got rid of the Dream Style Stadium name, and they went back to University Stadium, which we love. And Bronco Mendenhall, proven winner, a lot of potential, and the flagship university of the state of New Mexico. You got cool rival schools, New Mexico State and UTEP, right in close range. So this is another one that, as you mentioned, back in the day, they got a great environment. If they can get some momentum there, this is a place that you want to go check out for a big game.
And he's going to make them good. I really believe he's going to make them good. And then we'll see what happens, because you see in basketball, they have the pit in basketball. So if you can find a game in November where you can hit both. And another thing, just like Lake Tahoe, Albuquerque's got some nice places, but also Santa Fe is only about 40 minutes away. Yep. So you could go stay in Santa Fe, which is gorgeous, and then commute down. I look, this is another one where it's like, I can't give it the Hawaii treatment because I grew up watching so many Hawaii games. I did not grow up watching that many New Mexico games, but there's something I love about the state of New Mexico. I want New Mexico and New Mexico State to be really good, and because they don't have a pro team. And unfortunately, back in the 80s, the USFL team, I believe it was the Oklahoma Outlaws, that had Doug Williams at the quarterback spot. They were moving to Albuquerque the year it folded. So we never got to see them play. They were going to play at the stadium, if memory serves me correct. But yeah. And I know the foods in New Mexico are always very much different, but awesome. What did you get here?
So the reason I sent you this is bacon wrap hot dog and glazed donut for $8. And there's another picture. I don't know where you got it, but it's the actual, there you go right there. So
how was it?
Well, I mean, just imagine what it would taste like. You got the juices flowing into a glazed donut, but I always scout the concessions. Most of the time we're trolling, $19 beers, but this is one where not too expensive. And a unique thing, what I did find interesting was the premium beer was $11 and the regular beer was $10. So not much of a difference to go to the quote unquote premium, but a hot dog is only $5. That's not terrible. And then, on a Black Friday, this game was really cold. It was really cold. So to be able to get some unique snacks and warm up and showcase it on Twitter, that's, it's fun for me to be able to do.
Look at how beautiful that is, man.
It's beautiful. And this was Black Friday. It's very difficult to 2-for-1 a Black Friday because there's only a few games going. And so I went Thursday Egg Bowl, Friday New Mexico for like a 1:00 game, which is not easy to do. And then I did.
What do you even fly it? You have Memphis to Albuquerque?
I did. It was either Memphis or I drove back to Atlanta, one or the other, but probably Memphis there. And then there was a Saturday, it was a 2 p.m. Southern Illinois FCS home playoff game. And I had to drive from Albuquerque to OKC to catch a morning flight to be able to get in range and then drive to Carbondale. So logistics were tough, but when you want to go to a game, you saw the night view, you saw that, you don't get to see this. So I really wanted to make a point on a Friday game where you're pretty much not able to 2-for-1. Where can you go to one game and get the best photos? And, the crowd didn't pack it out. It's reasonable because it was the last game before they moved on for Coach Gonzalez. But yeah, this is Mountain West football right there. That background, that's what personifies what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, this is just, and look, it's a sleeping giant, man.
Great photos. It's just not packed out, and you could be a painter, but you don't have all the the colors that you need to build the masterpiece, you can't do it.
But here's the thing. The blueprint is there. Like I said, 100%. Randomly go watch. That's on YouTube. I watched that shit on YouTube. You'll see it used to be super lit when Rocky Long had this thing going. It's just been awful for a while. So
and, they play the bowl game there. So if you want to see a big crowd, you can see it with the bowl. So, neutral crowd, but it can get packed out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for the future in Albuquerque there. All right, look, before I get to the next one, San Diego State, look, if you're watching this on YouTube, just stay put. But if you're on the audio side, make sure you check out the B side for all of our other, we have the rest of the Pac, or the rest of the Mountain West, and we also have the Pac 2. So check out that on the Stadium Heads podcast. All right. And make sure you give Michael a follow on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour, the most interesting man in college football. Give him a follow. I'm on Twitter at DColbyD, and check out the college football experience as well. All right. All right. We are back on the Stadium Heads podcast talking San Diego State Aztec football, Snapdragon Stadium. I call it the Snapper. San Diego, California, 2 years old. See, I caught some San Diego State games, but they were back. Both games were fantastic games, but there was at Qualcomm back in the day. So, or Jack Murphy, whatever you want to call it. This is a brand new stadium. And once again, I think it's all right. I think they did. Look, it's better than playing at an NFL stadium to me. And even though the design is a little interesting to me, I still think it's a solid stadium. What's your thoughts on this thing?
Yeah, you're hitting a spot for me. So San Diego native, grew up, I went to San Diego State games, saw Marshall Faulk, saw Darnay Scott, David Lowry. That's, it was Jack Murphy then, and then it evolved to Qualcomm. But there's a lot of soccer stadium vibes here, and they host soccer. And, there's a lot of US-Mexico games that are played here in soccer. And so, the extreme positives is they gave a brand new home for San Diego State. The whole stadium situation was in peril that drove the Chargers to San Diego, to LA. But, we talked about UAB Stadium, and they have this big press box, and it's, beautiful. And it says UAB Blazers on it. This doesn't have that. It's 35,000. It's expandable to 55,000. So both end zones only have one level, so they could add a second level, and that's how you're going to get to 55. There's thoughts that if they were go to 55, maybe the Chargers would want to come back. But I agree with you. I think that it is very neutral. It doesn't scream a single-use college football venue. It definitely gives the not multi-purpose, because they're only going to have one configuration, but other sports playing there as well. So do I want to say disappointed? No, but it's not what it could have been, if I'm trying to thread the needle here with how I'm saying it.
No, I get you. It's we're happy that they have their own stadium. We really are. But at the same time, it's they could have been a little bit, the design could have been a little bit better.
I agree.
Yeah. I know you already touched on this because you went to the game that was the hottest game in the history of San Diego, and that's probably why I can't tell if it was so empty because that or Brady Hoke's offense. But Sean Lewis is coming to town. I'll tell you this, man. I know you're from San Diego, and I was just talking with my guys, off air on the college football experience, and Sean Lewis is going to make this thing work. He's a damn good football coach, and not only that, it's an exciting brand of football. It reminds me. This is going to be a crazy take but it's like Eric Coryell when he was originally at San Diego State with Joe Gibbs and Bill Walsh and all these guys. John Madden was on the staff. But I think this offense is going to be very good for the city of San Diego that doesn't have a pro team. And I think it's going to, because, Brady Hoke took Rocky Long's old team and they were a boring watch, man. And I love running the football. I love special teams and defense. For whatever reason, they were trying to go air raid, but they were still trying to be physical. It was weird. It was a really tough watch on the eyes. Sean Lewis is going to bring excitement. And I think that's encouraging to me with the brand new stadium and a 12-team playoff. Hey, San Diego produced a lot of talent. Marcus Allen, Reggie Bush, Alex Smith. I think Ronnie Lott somewhere, Junior Seau, all from that area, somewhat. I'm excited. I think the crowd will show up, is my point.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with you. In more recent times, Coach Luganville with the San Diego State game, the Dan McGuire and Don. So often, San Diego Superchargers, Dan Fouts, the offense is something that has always been associated with San Diego. Sean Lewis, I saw him, a couple mashing games at Kent State, and just, the break fast, I think, or flash fast offense. And so the opener last year, Colorado TCU, that's when Shador threw for like 500 yards at TCU. That's Coach Lewis calling the plays for Coach Prime. So I agree. I think everything screams, let's be offense, let's be aggressive, and let's tap into that fan base. And so I'm excited for them. Side note, I went to the same high school as Reggie Bush and Alex Smith, Helix High School. So we always root for those guys. But it's, there was legitimate talk about San Diego State, and they sent the letter to join the Pac-12 at the time. And, things didn't work out, and, look at where we're at now. But again, put them with Boise State, put them with Fresno State, prime position if they can get it back going to be the G5 representative in the playoff.
And there's a mountain behind there. Staying true to the Mountain West. I dig it.
And you can actually go up there and look into the stadium. There's a smaller, they got that scoreboard that's blocking a little bit, but there's a way to get up there and look into the stadium.
Fantastic. Yeah. And this was, I guess did you visit it while it was being built, perhaps? Or
yes, this was the stupidest sneak into a stadium that I ever did in my life. So I drove to the stadium. There's just workers everywhere. And I had this, the saying, act like you belong, and you belong. And I just walked past everybody with safety vests and helmets. And I went in there and took a couple photos, and a worker goes, "Hey, who are you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm media." And he goes, "Oh, well, who are you supposed to meet with?" And I was like, "Oh, the four more." I just was making shit up. And then as soon as they, my cover was blown, I just bolted to my rental car and got out of there. But this was my exclusive reporting to put this was probably June, about 3 months before it opened, the exclusive photo of Snapdragon Stadium close to completion. So no arrests, no phone calls to family, but I would not do it again. That's for sure.
It's like graffiti. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It was horrible. Like, you go to a construction zone and you have no vest and no helmet. You're going to stick out a little bit. So
yeah. Hilarious. Yeah, man. I think Sean Lewis is the right guy for the job. I'm excited. I'm very excited to see what he can do. I just hope they can keep him there, because my fear is that he's going to be very good. He's a Wisconsin grad, and one of those Big Ten schools might come calling. But hopefully they can keep him here.
Yeah, and let's just say this: like, who doesn't want to live in San Diego? You know. And so, yes, he'll probably be tempted with jobs, but if you have a path to the playoff in a great G5 program, and you live in San Diego, California, it's going to take a lot of Benjamins to get him away from that.
Agreed. And a cool statue here. Is this outside the stadium?
No, this is closer to campus. There's two of them. I mean, so we talk about unique mascots. We talked about the Aztecs. How cool is that? And so there's a Aztec that they have two of them. The original one is inside a administrative building. I always try to take the photo not during major traffic times, so we got that. But this is what we love about college football. You can only have so many Tigers and so many Bears. Aztec, Warriors, very cool.
Awesome stuff. Next we go to San Jose, California. San Jose State Spartan Stadium, I'm calling it. The way it should be called. This is a 91-year-old stadium that seats 21,250, and you want to talk about I love this thing, man. What am I missing here? Like, I love the trees in the background, and maybe it's the clouds in this shot. The stadium looks amazing, and I love the history of this thing. From Dick Vermeil to a lot of other greats. Jack Elway was a coach here. Steve DeBerg, Gil Bird, a slew of players that were very talented. Jeff Garcia. What am I missing here on this not being like, because this is one that doesn't really get talked about a lot. Maybe it's because it's in San Jose, the crowd doesn't show up, but I like Ken Niumatalolo. I think he's a good football coach. Thought he got a raw deal in Annapolis down, getting fired. But I think this is, I think they're going to be excited. They're not running the triple. They're running this, basically the June Jones run and shoot. This is another one that I think could be very exciting. And I actually love this. I prefer the stadium over Snapdragon Stadium. Your thoughts on this stadium? Great photos, by the way. And I see Mountain West. Let's go.
Yeah. So all these photos are from week 0 last year. It was a Sunday game against Oregon State. So you can see in the far background, there's about on the visitor side across the stadium, it's about a 4-year project where they removed about 9,000 seats, and they built this athletic center. It hosts the needs of 22 programs within San Jose State. California real estate is at a premium, and so they're trying to be creative and build it there. There's some exclusive seating areas under umbrellas. There's a berm, and they don't put students there yet, but I'm hoping that they will. There's 3 schools in the Bay Area that I'm in close proximity: Stanford, Cal, and San Jose State. I've got the best experiences at San Jose State. They won the Mountain West in 2020. They are in close proximity to Silicon Valley. I know they can offer students, internships with Fortune 500 companies. There's a lot of potential there, and they have some big games coming up. I know Black Friday they're playing Stanford. You mentioned the new coaching hire that they're very excited about. So a lot of things are in place for them to be successful. Coach Brennan was there forever, is going to Arizona, so it's going to be a little bit of change. But I agree with you. I think that they definitely could sneak up on people, and I always have fun going down and check out a game in San Jose.
Dude, like this shot looks great. And I know, like, if you're looking at this one, you're saying, where's the stands on that side? And it's up like at a restaurant in a way, but it's still a beautiful stadium. Your photos here are great, man.
Well, I'll tell you my opinion. If you go back to the previous photo, here's my opinion. My opinion is, you see the athletic center, you see the yellow square in the middle. That's, those are people looking out. What I think they should do is either allow the students to sit on the berm, be right behind the opponents, and create an intimidating environment. If they don't do that, I think they should build a small bleachers that go from underneath where they're standing on the balconies to the edge of the sideline, and then have a walkway concourse underneath those bleachers. And I think that, it's only at 21,000 now. You're talking about maybe 4,000 seats, so not that much. But that would just be a very, we've talked about other stadiums, how it's cool when they're right on the sideline and intimate. Imagine 4,000 students or 2,000 students right on the edge there. You're not giving up the views for the premium seats. You're not giving up the walkway for people to navigate the stadium. So there's no plan in place for that. There's been a lot of commentary about the choices made over there. I think that there's potential to do more, but as far as, working what they have, mentioning the hard to get real estate in California, they felt like this was the best decision, but I think there's still room for more growth.
Yeah, definitely. Still beautiful shots, man. And we do have a obstructed view shot, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN, as Michael is trying to catch the game with this looks like a deck. This looks like a deck next to you.
Stand right there. Yeah. And what they do is they build them out and you leave the side seats available, and that seat is for sale, and it's got a seat number on it. And it's a fun one to take a photo of. And you could see people sitting right next to me. So it's not like, people weren't trying to do it. That was a sellout against Oregon State. So, but yeah, we got Spartan Stadium. Let's just say that.
There we go. Folks, look, before I get to the UNLV Rebels, I want to tell you that the Stadium Heads podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8 is now live for the NBA Finals. Create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. And the best part is you can win up to 300 times or up to 325 times the amount of money you originally enter. And you can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries. So don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. Sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. And yes, they do have college football. UnderdogFantasy.com promo code TCESGPN. Next, we jump over to the UNLV Running Rebels. All right.
Oof.
This one is one, and I asked Barry Odom this last year at Mountain West Media Day, but I have issues with this. They play at Allegiant Stadium, which seats 65,000. It's 3 years old, but once again, there's not 65,000 people to watch UNLV football. Even with a 9-win season, I thought this move was insane. I still think it's insane. I don't like Allegiant Stadium. I think it's good for if you're going to go to a club, you know what I mean? If you're going to go to a rave or EDM or something, you know what I mean? Like, but oh man, don't get me started. So, because look at this, like they have Sam Boyd, which I love Sam Boyd Stadium, and I don't understand how they botch it for this. Look at this. This is not what this is with them on the verge of going to the Mountain West Championship. This was the Wyoming game. I'm assuming you were at. Looks like Wyoming there. Dude, this is pathetic. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be playing at an NFL stadium. You know what I mean? Like the whole top deck is empty. The second deck is empty. I understand they actually did a decent job in this shot packing the lower deck, but in many the games I've watched, it's just been so empty. You took away and it takes away the feeling of desert football in Las Vegas. What Sam Boyd provided was, to me, it's a cool stadium that hosts bowl games and stuff too, but like it was in the desert and it had that feel of like, oh man, you got to go to the desert heat. I remember Wisconsin, I think, losing the game there, and Baylor losing the game there, and this is like a corporate feel. It's soulless. It's soulless here. Tell me about your experiences to Allegiant.
Man, this is bad cop right here, because we don't have the good cop to mix into this. First of all, Sam Boyd is a Mountain West stadium. That's what it feels like. You know, you're talking about the desert and the mountains and the outdoor. You know, that's the vibe that you get. You know, Albuquerque is a hot place during the early part of September, early October, and you get those night games and you get the mountain views. That's what you had at Sam Boyd. So we're extremely disappointed with the choice that they made. You know, places like Temple in Philadelphia and Miami.
This is the worst stadium in college football for college football has no place here.
But what I'm saying about those other places, Pitt, they have no other place to put their stadium, and UNLV doesn't have that. Not only did UNLV choose to play in Allegiant, but they also agreed to not allow any events be held at Sam Boyd until at least 2030. So all these talks about, there's been concerts there. There's the XFL wanted to try to be there. You can't do anything at Sam Boyd, and it just is sitting there and rotting. And what do people say? Oh, it's too far from the stadium. First of all, it's the campus. It's like a 15-minute drive. Second of all, Allegiant is still almost 3 miles from campus, so you got to hoof it over there or take a cab, so it's not easily accessible. You commented about the upper levels not being filled out. This game against Wyoming was the best crowd I've ever seen at Allegiant. I've seen 2 games there, and this was the best one. They don't open the upper levels. They don't want to put concession people up there, and they don't want to put janitors up there. So, when I take photos, I try to scout it out, and I try to go to the upper levels, and I can't do that. When you go to the concessions, they're handing you Raiders cups. There's nothing there's nothing that says UNLV.
Nothing unique about it. Yeah.
No, but there's also nothing that says UNLV other than changing out the end zones and putting a couple things on the video boards. They got the Al Davis torch up there. There's nothing that says UNLV. So I get it. They're slightly more profitable, but USC LSU is playing a Labor Day Sunday game here. Like, who the hell wants to watch that stuff? So I get it. There's bowl games. You want to put them in big venues. No problem. Okay. No problem having the NFL big games here. No problem. We want college football at Sam Boyd in a Mountain West Stadium, and there's no reason not still play there.
Yeah, it sucks. I have no desire to ever see a game there. You know what I mean? Like I just have no desire. It's like, to me, it's not college football.
I did it because I got to check a box, I got to check a box and I win. And
I fucked up the graphic there, but I mean,
that's not a college football stadium.
Yeah. It's just,
and I've put tweets out and I know you've seen them on Twitter. This is what every NFL stadium is either going to look like or people are aspiring to look like. And, I sent you a text earlier today and it was an NFL film song, Over the Hill Gang, and just that music with the outdoor like this part of the reason that you and I have evolved off the NFL is things like this. So cool, NFL, you want to do that and commercialize your product, no problem. We don't want that in college football. Yeah.
And Damani says he goes, had more fun at Circa. This is very commercial, not a college feel. Exactly. There's no soul to it. This is, I cannot believe they decided this. And we even put together, this is a photo of Michael at San Boyd Stadium, or from the game he attended. And look at that. That's perfect for the Mountain West. What are you doing? That's perfect for college football. How do you botch this? That stadium's fantastic. And it blows my mind that they made that decision. I mean, what would you rather play a football game in? It's not comparable to me.
That photo is the Las Vegas Bowl. So I went to a UNLV game in 2017. This is the Las Vegas Bowl. It was either 2018 or 2019. This is an outdoor November or December bowl game. And it's sunny. And Las Vegas is hot, but you want to take advantage of that weather late in the year. So, early in the year, play the road games or play the latest you can play. It's 7:30, 8 o'clock kickoff, but you're able to take advantage of that outdoor football and not have fans be, cold or miserable. This is a December bowl game. And look at that.
You're in the West. Like you feel like you're in the West. Like you look out and it looks like you're about to go take a stagecoach. You know what I mean? Like it's just, this is to me.
It leans into how the city of Las Vegas was founded, right? It just has that feel, and it's extremely disappointing. Like, no shade on the players or whoever, because we always root for the players. We're stadium heads, and this is a stadium that fits that mold. And it's a double whammy. They're not playing there, and they're not allowing anybody else to play there.
Yeah,
because of Mark Davis's greed. Keep it away from college. If you want a co-conspirator and generate more revenue, have some more trade shows or conferences or whatever it is at Allegiant, don't suck in the UNLV football program. Let them play here.
Whoever made that deal for UNLV, man, I'm trying not to wish bad things, but no, I don't wish bad things, but I'm just saying, come on. I mean, it's such a simple decision. There's no team I'm madder at more in all of college football, I would say, than UNLV, because they let me down.
And I'll say this, there's zero tailgating at Allegiant. If you go back to that outdoor photo, I don't know if you can get to that. There's a little postage stamp where, it's probably like $250 to park your car. Sam Boyd is built for tailgating. It's out there. There's plenty of space. So, I know people talk about, you can walk through air-conditioned corridors from your hotel and you can funnel out to Allegiant. Cool. Okay. But if you want to do a college football experience and tailgate outside in November when it's, 65 degrees and sunny, when you go to Michigan and it's 22 degrees and you're freezing your butt off, this is where you want to be. So no tailgating in a dome, no signage, nothing for UNLV or this.
And this is where their best players played too, man. Like I do think like Randall Cunningham, Ickey Woods, Keenan McCardle all played here. You know what I mean? Like you want to play, like to me, it's one of the biggest mess ups to me in college football in the past decade.
And I will tell you, I'm worried that the Mountain West plays their championship game at the home team with the best record stadium. If they have their way, and I can't speak for the commissioner because I don't know, but if you could get a big crowd at Allegiant and make more money, maybe that's where you're going to play the Mountain West Championship I don't want to speak anything into existence, but we like the fact that the team that earns it gets to host. Yeah. And, this would be a great place to see a Mountain West Championship if, December first weekend on a Friday night here outdoors, it would be awesome. And, again, we're talking about Allegiant want to generate revenue. That's another way to do it. So hopefully that doesn't come, but you could see the writing on the wall and the steps people place. And I definitely could see that happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the stadium. I Google image the stadium all the time. Like tough day at the office. I just Google image this and I look at it's just perfect. There's some photos back in the 70s where it's like the desert was like right exactly where you see the scoreboard. They hadn't developed the parking lot as much. And it was just like, this is the epitome of what I picture UNLV. And that's your advantage too. You got to come to this dry ass heat. You're taking away your advantage. It's so stupid. It's just, anyway, let's continue on.
Bad cop. I told you.
Robert Martin says, question to you, Michael. Are you coming to Canada for the CFL stadiums?
I want to go to the Grey Cup. I had a path for the CFL. I don't have enough money. This is what it comes down to. Yeah. So
well, it's all going to college too.
Well, I'm self-funded and I want to, I did 90 college football games last year and I want to beat that. And it costs money to do that. And until, some of my irons in the fire become real and maybe hopefully get fully monetized, I have to be careful. And so I want to see the CFL. Like, I love the CFL. I love the history there. The Grey Cups to me, it almost feels like it stuck to the soul of the CFL more than the NFL did.
100%.
So the Grey Cup is a Sunday. I want to say November 16th or 17th. And then there's a Saturday game, UCLA at Washington. And that would be a great doubleheader. The only downside is the Grey Cup this year is in Vancouver, which is an indoor stadium. So you're not going to get the same as you would outdoors in Montreal or outdoors in Toronto. So I don't think I'm going to the CFL. I want to, but I would say I need $4,000 to $6,000 of free money to do it, and I just don't have that right now.
In the coming months, we're going to try to raise some money for Michael's travels and hook up some fans with some SGP stuff and some Stadium Heads gear. We'll work up something, but yeah, I mean, look,
and I'd love to do it next year. If we have a successful year and there's some, things like you're talking about or some extra revenue, I want to do it. I looked at, they play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and they do that almost every week. So you could do a 2-week trip and knock out 7 or 8 of them in the one. So it's definitely on the map, and hopefully we can do what you're talking about here in the future.
Yeah. And I would ask Robert this, what's up with, Simon Fraser closed down their football program. That's one that bothers me, man. What's going on there? They got to fix that, because that would be a perfect one to pair. I believe that's in British Columbia. I'm not 100% on that. It might be.
I think it is.
Okay. I thought they were playing a game other than in Vancouver at some point this year. Maybe that's next year. I saw some type of release on that, but anyway, yeah, we love the CFL. Check out the CFL Gambling Podcast, which I host. Watch the game tonight and everything. And Robert says he hopes you can make it. And Robert, I believe, is in Winnipeg. He's a Blue Bomber fan, and they're like the Green Bay Packers of the CFL. Love their fans. They do football right up there in Winnipeg. So maybe one day College Football Campus Tour could be CFL Campus Tour, and he'll be traveling through.
Would love it.
Let's jump over to Merlin Olson Field in Logan, Utah. Merlin Olson. Who doesn't love Merlin Olson? It is called Merlin Olson Field. I'm telling no lies there. But yeah, it's called Maverick Stadium too, but it's Merlin Olson Field. Logan, Utah, 55 years old, seats 25,100. This stadium, even from TV, but your photos, man. This is just fantastic, right? This was
the superstar stadium of last year. We've talked, I think when we did the Big 12, we talked about BYU and Utah, the how underrated a football state is. This is one of the most scenic G5 stadiums, period.
It's gold. This is gold. There's gold in them there hills. That's exactly what's going on here. As this is like
4,700 foot elevation. It used to be Romney Stadium until 2015. In 2014, they did a major renovation. That four-story press box is just such a sleek, attractive, modern-looking building, and it really just makes the stadium pop. And just this night on October, I mean, that's right around kickoff. You're getting the mountain views in the background. Every photo I took that night was just incredible, and this is something you can see on a regular basis. And Utah State is another one that's had great seasons, but this stadium right here, easy top 10 G5.
Yeah. It's just gorgeous, man. Look at
Mountain West.
Look at this thing, man. This is what we're talking about. We talk about stadium heads. This is perfect to me. Who doesn't want to see a football game here? Compare this to Allegiant. You're just like, this is like going to a different planet.
And I don't want to visit the Allegiant planet. Like, don't take me there. Yeah.
This stadium is fantastic. And look, this is a program we see with basketball, football. They've been good. They've been, they won the Mountain West a few years back. They keep making bowls, but man, you wonder now that there's a ticket to the playoffs. You wonder if, a couple of years ago they won the Mountain West. If they win the Mountain West this year, there's a chance they could be in the college football playoff. And that means there's a chance that they could host a game, which is just incredible when you think about that. Can you imagine December 20th, a team coming in here? Oh man, don't get me started. This is a gorgeous stadium, man. And it's on me and my brother's bucket list it's high up there. I'll just put it like that to get to.
And go ahead.
I said higher than a lot of other ones you would think.
Yeah. And, from a traveler strategic perspective, you got Utah or Weber State is about 45 to 50 minutes south. South of that, not too far, is Utah, and not too far south of that is Provo. This is a prime candidate for a 2-for-1. You want to see this during the day because you want to get that mountain view. You also want that mountain view at a lot of places, but this is those four schools lined up in a row in Utah is just murderer's row of stadiums. This
thing is amazing, man. Great job. Great fucking job, Utah State.
And this is a G5. And I know that we're obviously talking about G5, but this is a beautiful stadium. Well done. Yes, it has a modern flair with that press box and that look, but you could still tell this is an old stadium built in 1969. It didn't lose that old feel at all.
It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Look at that. Look at that. You get the mountains. Each side has the mountains. It's just you can't lose. You can't lose with this stadium.
I have to spread myself out because I can't go to the same places over and over because I want to experience a lot of places. This is a place I wish I could go to every year. Look at that.
Yeah. It's fire. Look at that, man. Look at those mountains right there. It's just a beautiful stadium, man. And that press box, like you said, looks sleek, man. It's definitely very, very, very nice. Very good job.
The upper part, those I think those are heated lights right there. So the orange lights on the premium seats. I've done a side-by-side tweet. If anybody wants to, it's actually funny. If you go on an ESPN box score and you look and they have the stadium photo, it's still from before this renovation in 2010 of Romney Stadium. But if you look at the side-by-side and you look at the press box, it's this little small looking 1970s one. And the way that they did this, it's, you even got the bull right there, the logo, just everything about it is cool.
Fire. Absolute fire. Next we go to War Memorial Stadium. But before we do that, I want to tell you folks at the Stadium Heads podcast, Mountain West and Pac 2 preview is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on NBA player props, then you need to download Rhythm. That's RITHMM. Rhythm is a prediction and projections app that makes data and analytics in sports betting easy for everybody. And Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data to help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data. This this just helps you, so you don't have to just endlessly scroll through some sports book trying to find an edge, writing numbers down like Russell Crowe at A Beautiful Mind. No. All right. So this is there for you. Claim your free 7-day trial period today. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. So what are you doing, folks? Take that guesswork out. Hop on over there. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use that redeeming code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, terms apply. Create an account. Redeeming code CFBX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we are back on the Stadium Heads podcast. And we are talking War Memorial Stadium in Laramie, Wyoming. Conrad Dobler played at this place. 74 years old, seats 30,181. And myself and NC Nick, my brother, host of the College Football Experience podcast, we went here, and I can tell you this: it don't get much better than War Memorial, in my opinion. First off, the end zones. Well done. That brick building, amazing. And then what you don't see in the darkness right now, maybe you see a little bit of it, is the thick foresty trees, the evergreens or something over there. I loved my experience to Laramie, and I think the stadium is an absolute beaut and a gem. Your thoughts about your travels here, man?
I agree with you. We're going to show top fives. This might be my favorite Mountain West Stadium. There's something special about it. 7,220 foot elevation, highest in all of FBS. It's the only college football venue in the state of Wyoming. Like literally everything is dedicated to Cowboy football. You mentioned the end zones with the mountains, the athletic building in the end zone, just with that cool, brick. During the daytime, you can see, which I've been to 3 games there, and these are photos from last year, the border war. First time it was ever light out. And so the kickoff photos, I got a couple with the background. You see the end zone, there it is right there. And, you're not thinking of hills and mountains, but when you're up 7,200 feet, they're all mountains. The end zone below the bleacher or the scoreboard right there, it's always standing room only. They got people standing on picnic tables, doing everything to watch it. And so this is one that I've gone and visited empty and sat there for an hour and just taken it in. So bucket list, intimidating environment, scenic, historic, War Memorial, the great name. Like, what's not to love about this place?
Power 5 teams die here. I did a recent post on the College Football Experience Twitter account at TCE on SGPN about their dominance over Power 5 teams that are dumb enough to play here. Like, they have whooped the SEC's ass here. They've whooped the Big 12's ass here. They've whipped the ACC's ass here. And BYU is now this is an old school rivalry. BYU is scheduled to play in Wyoming this year. I'm glad to see that game back on the schedule because it's it was an old school rivalry. They haven't played it in a while, and it should happen every year. But man, moving forward, watch out when you go to Laramie, and that's what I love, man. This is college football. This is, to me, it does not get much better to me. It's the epitome of college football, and I encourage anyone that likes college football stadiums to get out there and go to this thing. It's not that far too. You fly into Denver. You could be there in a couple hours from Denver. So, get out there, check this out. This is fantastic. Your photos are fire, by the way. And they rushed the field here.
So I've been to 3 games there. One was during COVID, and so not a good crowd. But the two other games were border wars against Colorado State, which is the oldest rivalry west of the Mississippi River, and they beat them. And I rushed the field twice. So I rushed the field in 2019, and I rushed the field last year. So only FBS venue that I've rushed the field twice. But what I try to do is rush the field and then run up the bleachers and try to still get a photo with the crowd on there. hurdle in Wyoming is probably by the second quarter, your feet are frozen. And so you're trying to run up 2 levels of bleachers to get to the top and take this photo. But it's cool to be at a place where you beat your rival and you're rushing the field every single time. That's how meaningful that rivalry is. But again, just to echo your comments, special place, isolated location, big schools, any school. I can think of San Diego State teams that went there and the elevation got them and they had a higher powered offense and they couldn't do it. So all business, all football, tons of pride with Wyoming fans. This is, probably top 5. It gives App State vibes. And I know that they played a home and home. This is like, what's that?
I was at that game. I stormed the field when they blocked the kick and returned it for a touchdown and won.
Which was crazy.
Yeah, that game was insane. And
they're playing at Boone this year, I believe, the second. So if you know App State football and you've been to Kid Brewer, this is essentially the Mountain Time Zone version of that experience.
Yeah, and to me, like I said, you can't do enough of that. Sunbelt, Mountain West, do a bunch of the. I know App's got Boise coming.
Boise's opening at Georgia Southern this year.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, let's continue this trend. Get Coastal Carolina up there. Get Southern Miss up there. Yeah. Let's go. I love what they're doing, and there's not much better. And look, this is just awesome. Look at that. Look at those trees, man.
I took a photo of a trash can, and you never seen so many beers stuck in that thing. I mean, this is just they're feeding families at this place.
Yeah, just college football done right. Josh Allen, obviously superstar quarterback. This is where he went to college. I mentioned Conrad Dobler.
One of the few programs that offered a scholarship.
Yeah.
To Allen.
It's just, man, I love
Look
it.
At that.
Look, I'm hoping that they capitalize since, that we see a lot of the time slots come out. Like Indiana, UCLA is like a 3:30 game. So there's less because me and Dan Wetzel, we have an episode coming out with Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports and the guy who wrote the Jerry Tarkanian book and everything. I just recorded an interview with him and it'll be out on Monday. But he was talking about how there's TV slots available now, West Coast times. He goes, because all those teams, Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC, a lot of them are traveling east a lot of times now. More often than not, in a way. So it gives you a lack of West Coast kick games. So he thinks the Mountain West could be in a good spot, or the Pac-2, if they decide to expand or do whatever, to steal a lot of eyeballs and potentially long-term 5-10 years from now, 15 years from now could be, the premier West Coast conference. Agreed. I guess it kind of already is, right?
And we don't know how things are going to shake out. There's this scheduling agreement for a couple of years, and we're going to talk about the Pac-2 stadiums, but there's a reason they're keeping those rights to the Pac-12. And there's been talk about taking the top half of the Mountain West and doing that. So yeah, I mean, if UCLA is going to be at Rutgers and USC is going to be at Penn State and Oregon is going to be at Maryland and Washington's going to be at Ohio State, that opens a lot of West Coast slots. So it totally makes sense.
Yeah. Or on bye. Some of those teams get byes one week, and it's just the volume of games goes way down. Even if you have one hosting, like I said, Indiana's at UCLA. It's a 3:30 kick because they're trying to help out Indiana. You know what I mean? Because they don't want Indiana to play that late. So it all of a sudden just opens this time period where you're just saying, wow, okay. And you got to wonder the long-term effect. I'm not talking about this college football season. I'm talking 10, 20 years when generations grow up watching college football. They're going to be used to watching. If you're in California, you're probably gonna be watching Fresno State. If you're in, really, if you're on the East Coast, like me as a kid, your options, you used to catch USC taking on Stanford or something, or Washington. Now you're gonna be watching Wyoming and Arizona, and Utah State or something, So I think it's a good thing for the conference, but the stadium's fantastic, and yeah, it doesn't get much better, man.
And just to put a bow on it, who would you rather watch? Oregon at Rutgers or Wyoming, Colorado State?
Why all day Wyoming, Colorado State, all day any of the schools. Really, like even if you added Washington State and Oregon State,
But what I'm saying is when you're coming like to TV executives and you got that built-in history border war 100 years versus Oregon at Rutgers, you want to put that slot there. So Mountain West is in a good position, and hopefully they choose their direction carefully, but they've stuck to their guns, and I don't want to say the sky's the limit, but we're excited to see what they do.
Yeah. And to be honest, like if I was the Big Sky in the FCS, I might even try to jump to the FBS as a conference because that time slot is available and that can increase your revenue so much. I know that I love the FCS the way it is. I almost don't want it to change, but I almost think if you put me as commissioner of the Big Sky, I'd be like, hey, I know it will be expensive, but there's no games out there besides the Mountain West right now. So at least in the FCS, if I were them, I'd be talking to execs saying, put the games on. We got Montana, we got Sac State, UC Davis, Eastern Washington. Let's conquer that. But it's going to be interesting to watch. That's what happens when you put TV execs in charge, though. So, next up. Oh, and by the way, obstructed view, even at that great stadium, which, like I said, we're not talking trash. We just appreciate it. Cause you can see about 10 yards of the field, 15 yards of the field, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Michael in it's just a hilarious seat there. Do they sell that ticket? Probably, right?
They do. That's the Serenity seat right there. You're up against the cold metal press box. No video board view, maybe 15 yards. You got to hike up a 72-20 elevation plus the staircase to get up there. So it's actually hard to get a photo because nobody's sitting up there. So you got to go down a few rows and talk it into. But they call it the knot hole. That's the name of it. And obviously, when they built the stadium, they didn't have the press box. They put the press box there, and there it is. But you want to check out and just listen to a game, that's your spot.
Yeah. That's hilarious, man. How do they sell that seat? Because you're still part of the experience, Robert.
But what's funny is I always take a demo photo. So I find somebody and take it. And the guy who did the demo, he was wearing a cowboy hat. And so it's my only obstructed view photo with a person in a cowboy hat. So yeah. And this one made the calendar too.
Oh man. Absolutely hilarious. Let's jump over and check out Michael's calendar if you haven't, folks. And I'm sure he'll probably do one, again, or so, just check out his Twitter page at CFB Campus Tour because he always, stuff like this. He'll keep you entertained. Now we do jump to the Pac-2, and we jump to, if I'm being honest, probably my two favorite Pac-12 schools. Well, Pac-10 back in the day, because when Colorado came out, I was a Colorado fan growing up. And I always like Utah too. But when it was Pac-10 growing up, I think my two favorite teams were Washington State and Oregon State. And it's so fitting that they might end up in the Mountain West, which I've always loved as well. So Oregon State, Reser Stadium, Corvallis, Oregon, 71 years old, seats 35,554. Oregon State's awesome, man. They're everything to me. Like I love this stadium. I love your photos, and I have not been to this stadium. It's high on my list. I almost went last year. I almost chose this over Wyoming, and I have friends there, and it's just I love. It reminds me of Oklahoma State, how close it is to the field. I don't know what is this from last year.
Yeah, this is last year versus Utah on a Friday night.
Yeah, and this place has a long history. If you're a ranked team, you come in here, good luck. Good luck. Remember USC, a team that I personally think USC was the best team in the nation that year with Mark Sanchez. Came in here Thursday night, got their ass whooped. And Damani in the chat saying it's on his bucket list. But this place, they just do college football right. Their crowd's awesome. They got the turnover chainsaw. Look at that. Look at that. Come on. We left these guys behind. Who's calling the shots? This is college football. I love the stadium. Talk to me about your travels here.
So I've been to two games there. 2019 Friday night game, Washington. Ugly defensive game. Washington pulled it out. They after that, from 2021 to week 1 of 2023, they did a renovation of the stadium. And so if you try to go to another photo here, right there. So that side with the press box is all brand new. And what they did was they lowered the capacity 8,000, and now it's at 35, which is in line with a Mountain West Stadium. And they built this brand new area, brand new press box. They put in a giant video board in the end zone, and they really made, as you mentioned, the comparison to Oklahoma State, they really made this an intimate setting. In this particular game, Utah was undefeated. They were ranked in the top 25, and these students came early to pack this thing out. They have on the right side of the screen, the students are all behind the sideline, and then it spills into this end zone. You can see a lot. I'm standing with the students to take this photo, but you know, they stay true to the Pacific Northwest with a lot of the overhangs that's prevalent, but not covering the whole stadium, not like a Hard Rock Stadium vibe where it just looks ridiculous. But the way that a stadium built in 1953 has evolved, the inside, the concourses are even more impressive. You got, you know, the black colors with the orange lights and Beaver Nation and all, you know, little modern concessions in there. So this is a cool place. And I know Damani in the chat mentioned he may never go to Corvallis. This is one that you could 2 for 1 with Oregon. Not very difficult. They're about
Portland State too, right?
Portland, yeah. So there's potential. There's a lot of smaller schools like D2s, D3s there, but this is one worth visiting. And they did an amazing job with this renovation. And I waited for it to be done. They beat Oregon. They upset them. They rushed the field. What an experience there at Reeser last year.
And you know what I notice? I see mountains.
You do.
They're going to fit in fine if they look. I know I never wish this for Oregon State and Washington State, but I will say this: I've always loved the Mountain West. So if they do end up, if it's the mountain, the Pac Mountain Pac, I love it. I still think it fits. And I think it can, you know, long term it could be better. You know, it could be a blessing in disguise. I love this place. I want to get here. This is very high on my list, and I will get here. Look at this shot. Just fucking great. Absolutely great.
When you walk around a stadium and you snap a photo and you look at your phone and you're getting this kind of stuff, you just don't want to stop shooting, you know? Yeah. And you can see the overhang there on the right, and there are certain angles that maybe not the field is blocked, but it's not perfect. But this is, again, like the September games before the daylight savings time kicks in, you can have a 7:00 start and you can still get the mountain views. So I love it. You know, the early part of my schedule, I really try to emphasize if I can get scenery in there. But if this ends up being a G5 school, I mean, look at that environment. Who wouldn't want to go watch a game there?
Yeah, definitely. Look at that. It's just perfect. That's
fire.
College football done right. College football done right. Look at that. It's just everyone decked out in orange. Yeah. Brand new video board. They're just ready for it. Let's go. Last but not least is one that I love, mainly because a lot of it is my childhood. I mentioned Hawaii. There's only one team that I would compare to Hawaii in college football that, for me, as a 7-8-year-old kid watching college football, even before DirecTV. Hawaii I got with DirecTV in like I said, the mid 90s, where in the early 90s, as of like 1990 or 1991, on cable, we had this station called Home Team Sports, and they had some type of deal with the Pac-10 late at night. Only you wouldn't get the daytime. You wouldn't get USC, UCLA or anything. You would never get that. That would be like a local ABC game that would never come on. But for some reason, we got a lot of Washington State games. So I have a fond memory of Drew Bledsoe. I remember the snow game in the Apple Cup, and me and my brother just being like, there's something, we love Washington State. That was like our favorite team in the West, them in Hawaii. And it was only fitting that for SGPN, one of our first big breaks was Mike Leach inviting us up there to be a guest. And we just had such a great time. So Martin Stadium, Pullman, Washington, 52 years old, seats 32,952. I had an amazing experience there. So it's like, this is high on my list just because maybe I'm a little too close to the fire, but I love it here. How was your travels to Pullman, man?
I mean, they were great. And I want to just kind of piggyback off what you're saying. That's what's beautiful about college football is the kids from Maryland could have an actual connection to Pullman, Washington.
Yes.
You know, if you're going to rattle off 30, 40 programs that are outside of your state, you would have a connection with. You would never mention Washington State. So that's why when we were talking about Hawaii charging for pay-per-views, don't alienate people, don't exclude people, make it accessible to everyone. So we don't have that much issues now with ESPN Plus and all that, but what you're talking about is an amazing story from kids from Maryland could have a connection with Pullman, Washington.
Yeah, and we just love the uniforms. We love the fact it was always like a lot of their games were in the snow. Like I felt like we watched more snow games for a couple year period there, whether it was Tim Rosenball or Drew Bledsoe or obviously all the way to the Ryan Leaf era. But we just loved it, and then it was only fitting that later in life that was our first travel. Now we've been invited to a lot of campuses as SGPN, and I love the stadium. And I got to see I got to see a practice, meet Drew Bledsoe, Steve Spurrier, Jack Thompson, the throwing Samoan, all these guys. Yeah. And it was a part of my experience. So I love this place. I've been through that building there in the back. The weight room is right there. Coach Leach's office actually looked out right over into the field. It was perfect. But yeah, I love this stadium. And I mean, it means a little more to me, I think, because of that experience. But what's your thoughts on the stadium in general?
So I like the stadium a lot. This has been used. I know Idaho played here when they were making the transition to D1 because they needed the seating capacity to get them up there. I went there for one game in 2018, and you could see rushing the field. I selected Washington State, Oregon in the beginning of the year, and I expected it to be a $30 ticket and maybe a 4-2 team versus a 2-4 team. And it ended up being undefeated Washington State. You mentioned Coach Leach, and that's when Gardner Minshew transferred there and just lit the world on fire. Game day came, and this one ended up being one of the most expensive tickets of the season. I know there were seats going for upwards of $800, $900, no problem. But being able to get there and watch them absolutely dominate the first half. I want to say they got up 28-0. And then Justin Herbert led a furious comeback to make the game very close. And then Washington State ended up making a few plays to win it and rushing the field. So, your first experience, you talked about your experience. My first experience at Martin Stadium is game day, rushing the field, Coach Leach, Gardner Minshew, all of that. So I have very fond memories of Martin Stadium as well.
Yeah, I mean this is fantastic. Now I love this too. Obstructed view, somewhat.
So as I mentioned, the seats were going for upwards of $800. I got a single ticket for $250 and felt like it was a steal. And then I got to my seat and there's a giant pole in front of it, and so I have a video of a end zone play where Minshew throws a fade and the wide receiver disappears, and I don't know what happens, and he comes out the other side of the pole with the ball and a touchdown. So I've said to people that this was the first time I became a victim of an obstructed view, and part of the reason that I advertise it is that I don't want people to be victim. And if you go back to the first photo of the opposite end zone, you can see, well, right there, but you see that light post in the far between the scoreboard and the press box? Yeah. That is in the actual crowd. And if you look at all the light stands all around the other part of the bleachers, they're behind it, behind the bleachers. But for whatever reason, that one is inside of the bleachers. And so you could be a victim of obstructed views. And I did it. That was 2018. And ever since then, I've been trying to inform people of obstructed view seats at college football stadiums.
Robert's got a comment in the chat, folks. Remember, you can hop on over here, leave your comments about stadiums. Sort of a dumb question. He says, are there any stadiums with padded seating?
I can think of the Coliseum off the top of my head. I know that there are padded seats. They're not everywhere in the Coliseum. They exist. A lot of these new suite areas, they're going to dedicate some padded seats. I would say most of them are not exposed to the elements. So maybe when you got these balcony looking outdoor stadiums that are covered, there'll be some. They're not prominent. You're going to have a mix of actual metal bleacher seats and then some individual seats. There are a few stadiums that have gone full plastic seats, but they do exist. There are some padded seats, but they're definitely not prominent.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably, the NFL has got more, we say the CCFL, the Controlled Climate Football League. If you're going to play in a dome, those padded seats are not going to get wet. You don't have to maintain them. Outdoor stadiums are going to be exposed more to the elements, so they're not going to be as many, but they do exist.
Yeah. Man, yeah, I love the stadium. Well,
I will say one more thing. There's a Friday night game, week 4, San Jose State at Washington State. I very much want to go to that game. I haven't been there since 2018. I want to take better photos. The challenge is, if you're trying to do a 2-for-1 Saturday, how do you get from Spokane Airport to somewhere by noon where you can see a 2-for-1? And the unfortunate thing about the way the schedule is, they announced the kick times for the first 3 weeks of the stadium. Starting in week 4, they have what's called the 12-day rule and the 6-day rule, where they don't announce the kickoff times until 12 days or 6 days before. So when you're talking about booking flights and you're trying to do a 2-for-1, it's very difficult to do it beforehand. So Nebraska is playing a Friday night game against Illinois on the same day. I went to Nebraska in 2021, rabid fan base, Memorial Stadium, amazing. I would be happy to go there. But my priority is Washington State. Haven't been there since 2018, but it's going to be purely schedule. If I can access a 2-for-1 from Pullman, we're going to do it. If not, I'm going to go to Lincoln and have a great time in Illinois and find a 2-for-1 in the Midwest. So crossing my fingers that there's a doable 2-for-1 that allows me to go to Pullman on week 4, but I won't know until about 12 days before kickoff.
We will have it all documented here. Don't worry. As the season approaches, we're going to highlight Michael's travels, talk about all of his experiences, because I'm telling you, the guy's schedule is insane when it comes to college football season. Yeah, I love Martin Stadium, and yeah, to me, I flew into Spokane and then drove, because that even Seattle's far away. But you do have Idaho right there. Maybe there's a Saturday game with the Vandals. I'm sure you already looked, but
that 2018 game, I went to a day game at the Kibbe Dome, and they're only separated 8 miles. One's on Eastern Washington, Western Idaho. So absolutely. I mean, a 2-for-1 with the Kibbe Dome is a dream right there.
Yeah. Amen. So we have our top 5 that we normally do. I no particular order here, but just the 5 stadiums we like most. And as I get past this, shout out to that. And then also the Coug statue is always great.
Very cool.
Get yourself up to Pullman, folks. But Michael's top 5, which here's what I appreciate about Michael. He gave me his 5, and then it was like he was thinking about this for days. He's just thinking about it, and then he's like, I think we got to make an adjustment. All right. And I'm not going to tell you which one it is, folks, but this is the amount of time and thought we put into this stuff. He has War Memorial, which is Wyoming's, Maverick Stadium, which is Utah State's, Falcon Stadium, which is Air Force, Canvas Stadium, which is Colorado State, and Bronco Stadium, which is Boise State. Now, I noticed you didn't put the Pac-2 in here, right?
Yeah, I didn't put the Pac-2 in there just because, if we're sticking with Mountain West, we do. I'm not sure where it would fit, but I would say I'm very solid on War Memorial, Maverick, and Falcon. I do think Bronco, Boise State probably would remain in there. Canvas Stadium, again, is a great accomplishment, and it's not an older stadium, so if you're going to throw in maybe Martin and Reeser, maybe you could swap a couple out. But I would, we're not ranking 1 through 5, but I will tell you War Memorial and Maverick are probably my 2 favorites.
Yes, and I by the way, I messed up the Big 12 graphics. Should be Mountain West.
That's all right. How many graphics are you doing? And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'll say this. I misunderstood it because I did all of them combined. But I want to ask you this: would Sam Boyd be in your top 5 if it would be here, if they were playing there?
if this were my top 5 and you said, could you take out one, it would probably be Canvas. And it wouldn't be because it's not a great stadium. It would be because you have the mountain views in the desert, in the outdoors, and you have a little bit of it at Canvas if you get high up in the stadium, but from the stadium, you're not getting that same kind of view. So it would be right on the border, but Sam Boyd belongs in the Mountain West.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. So I did concoct mine, but it did have the War Memorial was my number 1. I just think it's the best place to see a game. Now, I'll be honest, after looking at your photos, I kind of think Maverick might be my number 2, but I did this before, looking at your photos, but Reser Stadium was my number 2, Maverick 3, Canvas 4, Martin 5. But I'll be honest, man, that stuff changes.
Yep.
I start looking at certain photos and I'm like, well, hell, Bronco Stadium, it's really tough for me. But I feel very certain that War Memorial is my favorite. Maverick is rising up the charts. And then I did have 2 Pac-2 teams in there. If I was to take those out though, and just do Mountain West, Sam Boyd would be in my top 5. Sam Boyd would probably be, honestly, I think if I had to do the Mountain West with UNLV playing at Sam Boyd, just the Mountain West. So take out Oregon State and Washington State. It'd be War Memorial 1, Reser 2. I'm sorry, not Reser 2, Maverick 2, Sam Boyd 3. And that would be my top 3. And I'll be honest, before his photos of Maverick, I think I would have had Sam Boyd at number 2 because I love it that much. But anyway, folks, check out the Stadium Heads podcast. Shout out to Adam that says, appreciate your high hopes from my Lobos fellas. A little whiskey and stream. There you go. You got to get out there, Adam. The Lobos are coming, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, Bronco Mendenhall is going to make them a winner, and the fans are going to show up again, just like I watched with Rocky Long in the 90s. So, yeah. Anyway, check it out, folks. We're going to be back. We're going to be back next week with I don't know. What should we do next week? Should we do Sunbelt? Should we do AAC? Sunbelt? Let's go Sunbelt, right?
Sunbelt is Fun Belt. That's my wheelhouse. I've been to so many weekday Fun Belt games. So let's do Sunbelt. That's it's a comparable to the Mountain West as far as regional conference and also similar size stadium. So I think we should do Sunbelt next.
There we go. Let's go to the Sunbelt next week. Check out the Stadium Heads podcast, folks. What we do need though is you to jump over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, type in Stadium Heads, and that helps us also. The YouTube channel. I know I'm broadcasting this on like 5 feeds right now, but if you go to YouTube, youtube.com/@StadiumHeads SGPN and hit the subscribe button there, you'll get notified every time we go live. Cause at some point we are going to just say, we're just going to go straight from here. And then you're going to have to find it. All right. So you're going to be wondering why was I on the other stream? What happened to that thing? So hop on over there. Because I'm telling you, as the season ramps up, Michael's schedule, he texts me a schedule for 1 week, one of the weeks, this week. And I'm just like, this is insane. These guys going to like 7 games, 20 airports, I'm sure he's taking a boat. It's like planes, trains, and automobiles with Michael and his tour schedule. So shout out to Robert Martin. Appreciate you as always, brother. And look, and I want to get to Winnipeg for a CFL game too, brother. All right, I want to get there too at some point. Maybe me and Michael will both go check out a Bombers game or something, man. But make sure you give Michael a follow on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour, the most interesting man in college football. Because it's when the season rolls around, everyone's going to be following anyway. You want to be ahead of the curve. All right, hop on over there and hit that follow button on X or Twitter or whatever. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. Don't forget the college football experience. I'm breaking down all 134 teams. I've been recording so much this past week, and I love it all. Like I said, that's what encouraged me to talk about this 12-team playoff stuff. Is I start mapping out games, and I'm like, oh no way, this is going to be super exciting. It's more exciting than I can recall last year or the year before because of this 12-team playoff in a way. So I go check it out. We're going to do conference previews. We've already done hires, broke down every hire, drafted the top 30 games of every week. It's all available there, but now we've already previewed the whole SEC. Go listen to that. every single team in the SEC. Next, we're jumping to the Mountain West. So Mountain West fans, buckle up. Your team is about to be previewed in the next 10 days. Every single team, an hour dedicated to every single team in the land. So check out the college football experience. And you can give them a follow on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. Also, check out the FCS college football experience. And don't forget about the Sports Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. All right, check them all out, folks. Until next time, this is the Stadium Heads. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Yeah. I know I'm out of my mind. I've lost my mind. I'm just ahead of my time. I know I'm out of my mind. Rocking at first was hell without.